Welcome back, folks, to the Peripheral Views podcast. We got another episode today. This one's fun. This is going to be a good time. I'm your host, Jake. Errol's with me tonight yet again. Errol, what's
As
going on, bud?
always,
Oh, yeah, we're
hanging in
back.
there.
Good, good. We were going to have our boy Steve on. Steve Launderville was going to join us. He's going to pass on this one because of some scheduling issues. So we'll pencil him in for another one down the road. But it's all good. We've got some good content to push out tonight. We're talking horror. It's October, so that's about right. So we're gonna dive into. We've got a ranking show. This is going into that series. Before we get rolling, let's hit it. Let's hit that housekeeping stuff that we are so customarily expected to hit early in the pod. Let's do it quick. Peripheral Views. We're on YouTube. Peripheral Views Podcast. We can be found on YouTube. Just throw us in the search bar. Peripheral Views Podcast. We're on Twitter or X at Peripheral V123, SoundCloud.com/Peripheral Views 123. Check us out on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Make sure you subscribe, rate, and please, if you could, leave us a nice review and rating. That would be super helpful for us on the pod. Reach out to us a little bit more formally if you have any feedback or suggestions for future content at peripheralviewspodcast@gmail.com. And we also have a website up where all our content can be found. That thing's growing by the day, so continue to take a look at that. And if any new content that we put up is going up there first and foremost on that website, we'll be growing that, and there'll be some launches on that over the course. Probably Q1 next year. There's going to be some pretty decent expansion on the website. So just in the meantime, though, all the content's going up there. There'll be some minor adjustments between now and the end of the year, with some bigger adjustments awaiting in 2024. So that being said, Errol, what's going on tonight, bud? How we feeling about this about today's pot?
Oh, really good. The only reason I'm a little upset is because we missed Friday the 13th by like
Just a
just a
touch,
hair.
just a ch, just swing and a miss.
Mm.
Yeah, that's all good though, because we'll be paying homage to it. What a fucking sweet year to land Friday the 13th on October. I mean, how cool is that? I don't know how. I'm
Right.
assuming that only happens like once every 10 years or something along those lines, but um, welcomed in this month because great horror month. Great opportunity. I love this time of year. It's great. We are New Yorkers. New York is a great state to be, shifting seasons. So we're going to talk some horror today.
Great, great state is the best, dude.
Yeah, I would say it's probably, it's upper echelon, right? I mean,
Yeah,
it's a
that's like
great.
almost one of the only things we got.
Yeah, we've got a really good like seasonal, like from. I always say that, like, I feel like June through the rest of the year, that like second half of the year is like there's no better place to be than New York State. It's because, like, I mean, November kind of is a little bit rough, but like, you love to get a little snow around the holidays. It's perfect for the Halloween season. The summers are good, so you get that second half, and yeah, it's not too bad. That being said, let's talk about what we're going to talk about today. We are talking. We got two rankings we're going to do on tonight's episode. The first one's going to be, we're going to kick things off. We're going to do our top 5 Stephen King film adaptations, just to kick the podcast off. That one's gonna be a lot of fun because Stephen King, he is the man of horror. He is like the king of horror, the prince of horror, however you want to refer to him. This man has put out. The thing about him, and I'll just say this, just to kind of prime the topic at hand. Errol, I'm curious to hear what you think about him as a writer. I think he's underrated, which is a really like controversial thing to say about a guy who's probably the most
You
successful author in the country in the
right,
U.S.,
like
maybe globally.
one of the most successfully at least like adapted. No, so I mean I can kind of understand where that's coming from. I would I think that dude's troubled.
Like personally.
Yeah, like
Yeah, that's
so like what I was how I wanted to kick it off, like man, this guy has a couple reoccurring themes if you haven't noticed in a lot of his stuff.
for sure.
Um
Definitely does.
really and they're really good things too. One of them's the superpowers. He likes the supernatural.
The
That's like almost an
supernatural.
overarching theme and like a lot of the stuff in the Stephen King universe. I think it's called like the Tower or whatever. The Tower universe is like what it like is all linked to, like
The Dark
all of
Tower.
yeah, or something like
Well,
that.
that's
Like
like the
it's
series. He's got like a
right.
series of Dark Tower novels that are like those are like I think he has made. I'm speculating. I'd like to put
I
this up.
I
It's
almost
like
I'm
basically
almost
his magnum opus.
but I'm
Is the Dark
almost
Tower?
positive that everything that he wrote, at least to a degree, is like linked to that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't.
Like I know like it is. Um
Yeah,
and
they're
I'm
all
pretty
linked
sure
to the
like all the
same.
people with The Shining have it. Like if you
Yeah,
have
they're
like The
linked to
Shining
and they're linked to a place, right? Like it's like New England. It's like not specific. Like obviously you have like the
Maine probably because
yeah
that's where he
specifically
stays in
Maine.
his
What's
books.
the town in it? It's called like something Bury, Danbury.
Honestly, I'm not even gonna front. I saw the original It when I was like a kid, and I didn't really like it.
Yeah, I
It
mean, we'll get into those details, but either way, I mean, he's always got like a very small town setting. I think that's where he grew up, is New England. And I gotta be honest, like when I say underrated, it's like it sounds silly to say that because he's been one of the more publicized American writers of all time for sure. Definitely one of the most successful in terms of like book sales alone. He has his own style of writing. Let's pull up some of the numbers here. Yeah, so he's from Portland, Maine. I mean, this dude has sold three, and this was as of 2006. Which, by the way, this he's prolific as a motherfucker. I mean, we're talking about a guy who basically wrote a book a year for 30 plus years in terms
I
of
think
like
he wrote like 2 hours every day. Like
it's just yeah,
like
it's an
say he tried
incredible
to
pace.
he tried to take 2 days off a year, and it was like his birthday and Christmas or something like that. And even then, he's like he that's a man. It's a man who loves writing, is
He
what it
truly does,
is.
and it shows too. Because, like I said, so I'll be upfront. I have read, let's see, probably under five in total of his books ever. I know I've started a couple that have like I've read The Shining. Okay, so The Shining's that one was like I felt like I truly had to read that. 11/22/63 I read when that came out in 2011, but that was like that one doesn't even like I feel like that doesn't even count because it's truly not a classic. And like while his writing's great in it and it did get adapted, I didn't like think it wasn't like a barn burner or anything. Um, I want to say that I've read The Green Mile in completion, but it's kind of mixed in with the film. Like you know how it is when films and books get
Kind of
made
blends.
together, or you watch and read them at the same time, they start to kind of like it's a little fuzzy as to how what was the book and what was like my imagination from the writing or the film.
I'm right there
Um,
with you.
so like and Cujo, I read Cujo. Cujo is well, actually no, I read I guess that's not the only one because I did read I read the body because that one's based on Stand by Me, and we'll talk about how much that particular film means to me. But I mean,
You guys want to see a dead body?
yeah, man, we're gonna get into that a little bit, but um, yeah, like what are like when I say underrated writer, I just mean to say that while he is I think he's a little taken for granted. I guess might be a better word for it because I just feel like his what he has like kind of pushed into the world of like culture or pop culture is like is so intense. And I don't know that there's another can you name another figure that has like truly influenced pop culture to the degree that he has other than superstars? Like what other author? There's definitely no other author, right?
Oh,
Like could you
author, no,
there's not
no.
a
But I was
single
gonna say
American
like
author.
Steven Spielberg.
Yeah, you could. That's a probably a good one because especially and they're kind of in the same vein because a lot of them. While Stephen King is his content, the content of his writing is like obviously very gothic and dark and supernatural, and very like in times very horrific and very like very controversial even at times. Um, it's still coming of age because it's always involving kids. So like you kind of feel like it comes from a
Well, like
similar place.
speaking of controversial, like if you haven't read it, it
Yeah, the
definitely
end of that
shows
book gets
you,
wild.
dude. Well, so here's the thing too, because like I don't know if it's on your list, but it's not on mine. So I wanted to take a second and talk about it. While I
Okay.
said earlier, like it's not my favorite because I've never been like a whole like ooh like clown spooky or whatever. I'm like they just clown going after kids. You look at the drain. I'm leaving. Like no, I'm not going there. I'm leaving. Um, but it like the creature is like um
Pennywise.
Right, or Pennywise is like part of that like whole like interweb scheme. And I used web on purpose because that dude Pennywise is like an interdimensional spider.
Yeah, yeah. And there's like a an orgy scene at the end of the a very controversial orgy scene in the
Well,
end of the
because
book.
yeah, the kids. Because here's the thing: that interdimensional spider feeds off of the fear of children.
Hmm.
So, like, what
So
he would do
they
is try to.
combat it with love.
Well, no, no, no. He would try to. What he would ideally, what that spider would want to do, and I think that's terrifying. The idea of that's terrifying. You have a clown. Oh no, the clown's spooky, and then it just morphs into a giant spider creature last second, and then like
Hmm.
eats you, like as it like sheds like the skin from the clown. I'd be like, all right, now it's scary.
Right.
Uh, but what it feeds off of the fear and innocence of children or something like that. Like that's what it like gains. So if
Yeah,
they
like
lost their innocence,
that's the kryptonite of Pennywise, and like I've actually not read the books, or I don't know, is it one book or two books? I don't even know. I know it's two films now, but yeah, like that's kind of like the concept that I get from the film, and is that basically it's when the children become no longer afraid of Pennywise, he like loses his ability to like actually reach. It's kind of like the Freddy Krueger thing a little bit, like and sort of, but not really. Like the Freddy Krueger thing is like, oh well, I'm not afraid of you
no,
in
you're
my
right.
dreams.
It
It's
is
kind of
kind of
similar,
yeah.
but which we'll talk a little Freddy Krueger at some point. But well, here I want to do this before we move into our ranking. Before we talk, I'm going to list off. It might take me a second, so folks, you can bear with me. It's not too long, but I want to list off all of the actual film adaptations by Stephen King, just so we've got a lay of the landscape. Um, in terms of what he's responsible for in the world of film, because it is an incredible like library of films, and like I said, Erroll and I are only going to pick five, but there's going to be some honorable mentions, we'll say that. So let's do it alphabetically. You've got from 2014 A Good Marriage, 1998 you've got Apt Pupil, 2023 The Boogeyman, that just came out. I did not see that or check out the reviews for it. I kind of remember hitting my peripheral, but I don't think I saw it. You got 1976 Carrie, that's a Brian De Palma classic, which was remade in the last few years. Cat's Eye from 85, Cell from 2006, Children of the Corn 1984, Christine 1983. You got Creepshow 82, Creepshow 2 87, Cujo 1983, The Dark Half 1993, The Dark Tower 2017, The Dead Zone 83, Doctor Sleep 2019, Dolan's Cadillac 2009, Dolores Claiborne or Claiborne 1995, Dreamcatcher 2003, Firestarter 2022. Actually, I'm gonna that's a bit of a misnomer because it's Firestarter. There was an original Firestarter. 2022 is the remake, but there was an original one with Drew Barrymore back in the 80s. So wrong year on that one. Gerald's Game 2017, Graveyard Shift 1990, The Green Mile 99, Hearts in Atlantis 2001, In the Tall Grass 2019, It Chapter 1 and 2 respectively, 2017 2019. The Mangler 1995, Maximum Overdrive 1986, Mercy 2012, Misery 1990, The Mist 2007, Mr. Harrigan's Phone 2022, My Pretty Pony 2017, Needful Things 93, The Night Flyer 97, Pet Cemetery, the original 89, the remake 2019, Riding the Bullet 2004, The Running Man 87, Salem's Lot 2023 with the original dating back into the 80s sometime, Secret Window 2004, Shawshank Redemption 94, The Shining 1980, Silver Bullet 85, Sleepwalkers 92, Stand By Me 86, Suffer the Little Children is coming out soon, Tales from the Dark Side, the movie 1990, Thinner 96, 1408 2007, and 1922 2017. Um, that's the whole library, and dude, there are so many bangers in there. I mean, that's not just like he. I know that there's some misses, obviously, and he's not responsible, honestly, for the outcome of any of these films, really, in a film way, right? Like it's not him making the films; it's him writing the content. The books might be great, and maybe we're
Well, Yeah, no, you're absolutely right in that. And there's adaptations that he's like preferred over other ones.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, yeah. We'll get into there's some controversy there to be discussed, but for sure, yeah, we'll get into a little bit of that. But that's definitely true. That like he's in terms of his preference, like he definitely, and there was some that he was probably more involved in the production than others. But I mean, just as a library though, what do you think? I mean, is there an author? I think that might be the most prolific of authors involved in film adaptation too. I don't know that any author walks around. Maybe Tom Clancy in terms of like, you know,
Tom Clancy's got video games on lock.
yeah, I just mean like what writer has produced writing literature that has been adapted more? I mean, Stephen King, he's got to be close to number one, if
I
not number
think he
one.
is number one.
He might be. That's a lot of films. That's probably 30 films right there, 30 plus. I mean, it's quite impressive. If an author makes one novel that gets adapted, it's like a big deal. This dude did it like probably 30 plus times. So
Yeah. When
amazing.
I think, or rather, when I think of a lot of authors who like have that kind of longevity nowadays, they just have like a single series. Like this dude is just all over the place with like,
Right.
you know,
Yeah, yeah, no, that's that. I'm with you. I'm with you on that. Well, what do you think? Should we get into the list? Should we do our rankings? Let's, are you good with? You got your list ready? You ready to rock and roll on it?
yeah, I got my little list.
All right, let's do it. So, Errol, kick us off. Let's do number. This is our number five. We're gonna go five. We'll go five, five, four, four, three, three, and so on and so forth until we get to our completed top five Stephen King film adaptations. Errol, what's your number five? Hit us with it.
Okay, my number five is going to be The Mist.
Ooh, yeah. Okay, tell us why. What's got the mist? What about the mist? Because I'm gonna tell you, I love that film, and I think it's really, really underrated. But tell us what you love about it.
Okay, so I think it does really well what like a lot of like truly scary movies like don't do well. And that's a lot of the times, or at least at the end of the day, scary movies are meant to show you like yourself. So there's some times where like the people in the movie, they're worse than the monsters. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
they
There's a
are
lot
the
of that.
you could be there just because there's a greater evil doesn't mean that you are the best like a kind of option thing. And so it does a really good job at like you see they're like in the mist, you know that there's something going on there. So like the first time like you see something like, oh my God, it's like Lovecraftian creatures. Holy, there really is like a huge problem.
Right.
But that isn't a majority of the movie. There aren't constantly like it's not like the thing where no, not because the thing's kind of, but like it's not like a just total action 100% of the time. Like a majority of
Yeah,
the
there's a lot
scenes
of
take place.
paranoia. There's a little bit of that paranoia aspect that you can pull from the thing, but the major difference being, is that you inevitably do kind of see the creature in the mist, whereas like the thing isn't. It kind of manifests itself
Right.
differently each time you see it.
It's a true like us versus them kind of thing. But then
Right.
like as you see people like in real life, you'll start making subgroups.
Mm-hmm.
Like on top of that, when there should just be like a we all need to survive, like and like use all our talents. Like
Yeah.
interpersonal relationships come in the way, and I like how they focused on that.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. There's a couple things that, or there's a couple of these that didn't make it on my list that I really did like, but I just didn't put them on there just because it's
Are you
just
doing? Wait,
something
wait,
that
wait. Are you doing honorable mentions?
I was just gonna it. I Children of the
Save
Corn.
if you can say. Oh yeah, yeah. Save the rest of them though, because I've got a little segment at the end I want to hit with honorable mentions, because I don't want to just skip over what I can. Well, you might have some of my films on your honorable mentions and vice versa. So let's just wait till the end and we'll hit those. But no, The Mist is a great number five, and it actually would have. This is what a perfect prime example. I think it did not make my top five, but it is 100% in my honorable mentions. And okay, let's talk about a little bit of what makes the movie great. Number one, came out in 2007, which, by the way, one day at some point down the road, we need to talk about 2007, the year 2007 in cinema, because in my opinion, it's the all time great year for films. And this one, had it come out any other year, I think it probably would have maybe had a little bit more success. in the limelight because I think it's a great film. I think it's a really really good film. I think it missed a little bit. I think people were a little disappointed with it in some strange ways. I don't really. I feel like it got kind of caricatured a little bit, right?
Hmm.
But the screenplay was written by it came out 2007, directed and written by Frank Darabont, obviously based on The Mist by Stephen King. Um, but Frank Darabont is our guy, man. He's the Stephen King guy. And when this came out, I remember being like, "Oh shit, this is like I'm all in on this," because Darabont made The Green Mile and he made Shawshank Redemption, the two other Stephen King greats that we're probably going to talk about here in a couple minutes. But like when this was coming out, it was like, oh shit, this guy cannot miss with Stephen King material. Like even when he does miss, he's hitting The Green Mile out of the park, which was like people were disappointed with that movie, but we'll talk about if there's any flaws with that movie, what they look like, and obviously Shawshank is a major success. So people really were excited for this to come out, and when it did, I thought it fucking hit, man. When I saw it, I was like very entertained. It's like suspenseful. You gotta acknowledge the Walking Dead stuff, right? I
Hmm.
mean, does that stuff hit with you? Like, there's a lot of the same actors from the original Walking Dead. And by the way, Frank Darabont directed the first, like, I don't know if it's the whole first season or at least the first couple episodes of The Walking Dead with a lot of these same actors. So it was like he kind of just kept that train rolling. And we know what kind of success. I mean, that show has made billions of dollars at this point. So um, a great fifth pick. I mean, that's a good slot for that, and I like that it's in your five slot. What do you? I mean, what do you think? Well, let's talk about. Can we? Are we doing spoiler alerts? Because I feel like we have to talk about the ending. So if you're
Yeah.
not interested, if it's going to spoil it for you, please exit the pod for or push like 30 seconds, a couple times and jump ahead. But we got to talk about that ending. Erroll, what does it work for you? It must work for you if it's in your five slot, right?
Um, it's just,
It's fucking awful. I mean,
well, like, yeah, that's
not
just like
bad, but
it's
like you know what I mean.
that's like I didn't like pick it because of that, but like I think like the book has a more like the ending's like a little less alluded to, but like I'm a sucker for a not happy ending. Like if you're gonna have a quote unquote scary movie, wouldn't it make sense that the worst outcome happens? Like
Yeah, but
that's horrifying for the
yeah, but
guy.
do you know what the first thing comes to mind about the ending?
Hmm.
So I was like, I was actually kind of like just thinking about this. Not for any like particular reason. I guess it just kind of connects perfectly. Maybe because Darabont said has since revealed. I'm going to quote Wikipedia here, but um, Darabont has since revealed that he had always had it in mind to shoot The Mist in black and white, which would have been a decision inspired by such films as The Night of the Living Dead and the pre-color work of Ray Harryhausen. While the film's theatrical release was in color, the director has described the black and white print, which was released on DVD and Blu-ray in 2008, as his "quote unquote" preferred vision or version. So I'm like sitting here thinking about that. Like you bring up Night of the Living Dead is just glaring on my computer monitor right now, and I'm like, oh shit, the ending. Oh no, the ending's like way inspired, and I never connected the dots, but it
Oh
clearly
man.
is, right? Because like, spoiler alert for Night of the Living Dead as well. Um, Tragic ending, like the first black hero in the history of like any cinema period is like shot dead mistakenly by the heroic whites who like come and rescue him from the home, and they think he's a zombie and they shoot him through the window and they kill him like very tragically and upsettingly. And it was a mistake shooting, and it was like, oh shit, this is the same.
Hmm.
It's totally inspired by the original Night of the Living Dead. I don't know, do you know if the novel ends the same way that they went with for the film?
No, I heard it doesn't, and then
Okay.
I think Stephen King did like that. They made it less like up in the air. He's like, all right, if you're gonna make a choice, I get it. He's like, that's a
Yeah.
nice one.
It is. It will. I think it's way more. Well, so here's the thing about it. I think Darabont is obsessed, and he wrote the screenplay. I think he was like obsessed with Night of the Living Dead because now I'm kind of connecting more dots than maybe is even owed. But like, so that ending is like a tragic mistake kill of a non like evil entity or whatever you want to call it, a non zombie, and the kid was not going to be he was not going to die. He was going to survive because, right. So
Hmm.
the father kills his son, not wanting him to be captured by the creatures of the mist. And instead of it being the creatures, it's actually the army and they're here to rescue. And he had already killed his son and he's out of bullets or something. I can't
Right. It
really,
was like, yeah, he had like one more, and he's like, I can't fight them all.
yeah. So he was like, yeah. So he was going to kill his son. He kills his son and then he was going to commit suicide. And just when he's going to commit suicide, he's about to be saved. And then he's, I think, oh, no. He kills the girl, right?
Yeah, he kills like
Kills the
everyone.
girl, the girl that he's the Amanda, and then kills himself, or no, and then kills his son, and then he gives them the two bullets so they're not maliciously killed by the creature, and expecting himself to be mauled by the creature.
Mauled.
So he's trying to do like the moral thing, like I'm gonna, but then he's saved and he doesn't have. He's trying to kill himself because like the bullets, he doesn't have any more bullets, thinking he's gonna be mauled by the creature and killed, but now he doesn't have any more bullets and it's not the creatures, it's actually the rescue squad from the army. And like just the gut wrenching, like, oh, it's one of the, it's a heart wrencher, man. I remember being like, that's a jaw hit the floor moment, right, for an ending of a film. You're like, oh my god. um but it's, the Night of the Living Dead thing extends even beyond that because Darabont influences The Walking Dead. And like, have you seen The Walking Dead? Am I reaching the
Yeah,
Walking
but
Dead?
I thought it fell off exponentially starting from after the
Season,
first episode.
really? So I no, I think season one is great. I think season two is great. Season three loses me, but season two,
The pilot was the best thing I've ever seen in my life.
bro, the pilot's amazing. But I will say this: while we're talking horror, little bit of a 28 Days Later ripoff. Am I wrong? I mean,
100%.
you can't wake up in a hospital and be like, oh,
A
not
lot
28
of
days
this
later.
stuff is
Yeah, I know it's all homage.
so
It's a lot of
but
that.
that's to be fair, that's all George Romero ripoff because there would be no zombies
Everything
without George
because it all,
Romero.
yeah, right.
So,
It all starts with Romero. Romero
but
is God, basically.
what's the one like World War Z? I was like, this is just a blatant ripoff of
I actually
28 Days, 28 Weeks Later.
I actually never saw World War Z, to be honest.
I was like, anytime you just have fast zombies, I was like, nope, they did it
Yeah.
first. I was like, they were
Yeah,
the first people to do it.
28 Days Later is the first. Is I don't even know that it truly is the first, but it's
Oh, sorry,
definitely.
no, there's 28 days, but 28 weeks is the one where like the opening scene is just like
Yes,
they're
yes.
like sprinting
It's
like down the hill and then they
insanity.
get on the boat and he like
28
leaves
weeks
his.
later, 28 weeks later is 28 weeks later does not work as a film in total, but the first part, that first opening sequence of the film is better than basically anything horror has produced in like 20 years. It's so strange how horror is like that because that's how the strange things about horror are so fun because the whole film, it's almost built upon it's a genre built upon the concept that it doesn't actually have to work in totality. We were just watching, my wife and I were just watching like Friday the 13th, one of like the first two, and or no, it was part two, and we're just like, immediately you're just like, this is bad. Like, it's like, but it can be, it gets this hall
Right.
pass to be bad and to be like poorly made or low budget, or the acting does not have to be up to snuff, and like it always helps that it
horror
is.
Horror is in one of the weird juxtapositions where you can, if you do it correctly, you can have it campy.
Exactly, yeah, it works sometimes better that way.
It's a whole well, so all the like the I would argue like almost all the slasher, like the like slasher villains or anything like your Jasons, your Elm Streets, your uh Screams, your
Yeah, Ghostface
Michael
or Ghost
Myers,
Ghost.
they're all like it's all campy to a degree where it's like, I mean, Scream takes it and then like they just crank it up to 11 because it's
That's
like
not really
almost like a
campy though.
satire.
It's not even so much that it's campy in that it's just purely meta. Like the whole film is very meta.
Well,
It's
no,
like
yeah, that's what Scream is, literally like a satire, but
it's a satire of itself without actually being a satire. Like you don't even have to suspend disbelief because it's
but
like it's pointing at, well, the open, we were it's funny because we actually were just, my wife and I were just watching this, and like there was a line, I'll reiterate the line at the beginning of the film. It's so funny because it's like Wes Craven makes Scream, but he also made A Nightmare on Elm Street. And like one of the lines in the first 5 minutes of the movie is like the killer's calling the girl, and he's like, he goes, uh, is that the one with Freddy Krueger who had like knives for fingers? And she's like, yeah, the first one was good, but the rest of them sucked. And it was like he fucking wrote that line about his own movies. Like it's
right.
so meta. It's just totally pointing the finger at itself and like the
But
so ridiculousness of horror films.
But dude, like Friday the 13th couldn't be less campy, even if it
Oh,
took
that's
like
purely
even if
that's a good example of a campy horror
it
film
couldn't
for
be
sure.
less campy if it didn't take place at summer camp. Like, let's be real.
I know. It's well, and it's in its essence, it truly is. I mean, it's just a great genre. And what other genre gets away with being bad and still like people still want to watch it? They're still entertained by it. It's still fun. It's still because I think it's because it goes after like sensations of the mind and paranoia and like all this stuff. Like it's kind of
Some of those payoffs also work too. Like when you're so like on edge, and then you just get like a silly thing. You're like, wait, what the?
well. Have you
And then
ever
like
seen?
someone just gets smacked.
I've never seen the whole film, and I've actually heard that the film's not bad. But The Exorcist 3 has like this scene in it, and I had to look it up and see without watching the whole film because I'm not gonna I probably will go and because the scene was so good. Now I actually do want to watch it. There's one scene in The Exorcist 3 that is like, dude, you're gonna be like, you can't even watch. Like I watched it, and I was like, Jesus Christ, I can't even believe how effective this is. This is true. It was scary. It was like really scary, and it's one of the. I think it's revered as like one of the scariest sequences in any film ever, and it came out of like probably one of the lower budget, not so well received, an Exorcist sequel that wasn't. The second one was terrible, but the third one was. When you make a bad sequel, it's hard to come back with a good one, right? Like kind of setting yourself
Yeah,
up
you
for
got nothing to
failure.
lose.
Yeah, and they went for it, and it was good. And I haven't seen the whole film, but if it looks anything like this, like couple minute little sequence from The Exorcist 3 that I did see, I mean, folks, if you're looking for just a quick scare, just throw in The Exorcist 3. I mean, watch the whole film. I definitely it's on my queue, but like, um, if you just want a quick jump scare, like Exorcist 3 hospital scene. That's all you need. And it'll blow your hair back a little bit. It's great.
Yeah.
Um
So not to jump around, but Exorcist is one of those things that got like my honorable mention. Um, I'll tell you real quick a lot of the reasons why a couple of
For
these
Stephen King or all-time horror for the next.
all-time horror
Okay, yeah,
and
okay.
kind of this one too, but I'll tell you why those things don't scare me. It's the same reason Children of the Corn missed out to the mist. And the same reason why I
Children of
don't
the Corn,
have
by the way, is Stephen King. Sorry to interrupt, but I just wanted to
yeah,
mention
yeah, no,
that
that's what I
that could have made this list, the first list.
well, yeah, that was it almost did.
Okay.
Um, but the reason why Children of the Corn and it like all those things and The Exorcist, I'm like, why don't you I'm like just walk away. I'm like, it's just a kid. Just
No, but it's their
leave.
daughter. It's the girl's daughter. It's the
But
woman's
yeah, like
daughter.
man, I'm
But
going
it
to a foster
works.
home.
It
I'm going to
works.
a foster
Well,
home. I'm
hold
being
on.
like,
All
this
right.
one's
Well,
broken.
I'm gonna pause because we're gonna have this argument because Exorcist is coming up and we got to move forward. So, well, you just mentioned it. I'm gonna jump into my number five. My number five is Stephen King's It, and I'm not talking about the '80s version, or it might have even been '90s.
Talking about the Skarsgård.
Not the Skarsgård. So we're talking the new It, from 2017. Dude, I don't even care. I know that it's a little it was like a commercial hit and it was like this. Dude, that movie's fucking good. Like it is really good. And I'm not just talking like it's good as a horror movie. It's a good movie. It's smart. It's really well shot. It actually pays like really good homage to like the horror genre, like just in general, because of like the constant jump scares. It's rated R, thank God. So like they really don't have to pull any punches. It's super violent. The director's like pretty well accomplished in horror too. He's done a couple other horror movies like Mama and actually I think he did The Flash. Yeah, he did The Flash.
Yeah, and you can't really go wrong with Bill Skarsgård.
Yeah, and Bill Skarsgård is just so good in it, and it is like what I loved about it mostly is that tell me you can watch that movie and not feel like you are truly like reliving an 80s, like a 1980s horror film. Like the setting is perfect. It feels like a small town in Maine. Like it kind of, I don't know. It's just like, so I've read The Green Mile, right? And when I watched The Green Mile, I'm like, God damn, this movie is like, it's like truly imagining what I read it before seeing the film. Like I'd seen a little bit of the film as a kid, but like not, I wasn't old enough to actually watch it.
Mm-hmm.
But so I read it. I actually read the book because my dad had a copy just like kicking around, and I read the Green Mile, and then I watched the film, and I was like, oh, this is kind of what I've had in mind, like from reading, from the actual reading it, like it was like it kind of like hit the nail on the head, and I
Set you right back.
yeah, you're just like, oh shit, like his vision was similar to mine. Like the filmmaker made the film in the same like kind of like vision, that not exact, obviously, but like to a degree, like it was pretty on the nose. It like worked. And I will say that like I can say the same thing about this 2017 version of it. I was like, wow, this is like this feels right. Everything about this feels right. You've got a great Pennywise in Bill Skarsgård, just killing it. All the child acting is really good because you got some of the Stranger Things kids in there. Um, it's coming of age. It's really sweet at moments, like there are moments where like there's like these little romances and stuff. I just thought it really, really, really worked, and I thought the second one kind of almost almost met it at its success rate in terms of like from my perspective, like I thought that they were almost on level playing field. I had a big issue though with the second chapter. 2 was way too freaking long, man. It was like fucking 3 hours. Like, come on, the first film was already 2.5 hours. Now you got a 3 hour follow up. Like, a little bit much, right?
Smoke them all you got them, I guess.
Yeah, I guess so. So like, but if you're just as a standalone, for me, my number 5, pretty easy. Give me it. 2017 version specifically. But let's move
Uh,
in. Let's keep moving forward. I mean, we talk. I just want to make sure we keep on pace here. So, Errol, give me your number 4. What's your number 4? Let's move this thing ahead because we're going to talk a lot of these.
my number 4 is going to be 1408.
Oh, really? That does surprise
Yes.
me. That shocks
That
me a lot. That was
that
pretty good.
that movie kind of fucked me up. And here's the thing: what is 1408, The Shining, and
Ooh, here we go.
what's the other one?
Theories. Yes, give me
Well,
the theory.
1408, The Shining, and Misery have in common.
Hit me.
It's just disgruntled writers.
Oh yeah, so it like harkens to Stephen King himself,
It's
right?
just I feel like
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
like
just
he's
him.
always just going meta. He's like, what do I write about? And
Yeah,
he's like, what do I just write about me? He's like,
I'm
this is
just
what if I got
I'm
my
just
legs broke and they
I'm
told me to
just
finish this story.
yeah. Yeah. No, it is. It's true. It's always like well, but it works though because like I think I also think like I was on our Twitter page, and I hope folks got a chance to check some of these out. I posted a few interviews with Stephen King, and dude's pretty weird, man. Like I'm gonna
Well,
be completely honest,
I
he's a
think
little
is
weird.
now the time to tell them about the Mamba number 5.
Go ahead.
Okay, so
That factoid. Go.
I guess like unironically, like very seriously, Stephen King's wife threatened to divorce him if he played Mambo number 5 one more time.
Is this?
Um, the dude
That's
loved the song. I need to check to see if it's because
yeah. I was gonna
I
say, has this been substantiated? I'm just gonna
I'm
take it on fact because I've watched this dude's interviews, and he's kook, man. He's kooky. He's a kooky guy. He's very strange. Um, he, I'm not gonna be. I don't mean to be insulting, but in the few interviews I've watched, he seems like a little bit of a dick.
from the independent.uk in the arts entertainment department. Stephen King says wife threatened to leave him over Mambo number 5.
Sounds pretty. That's a decent credential right there. I mean, the Independent UK is like not a. I mean, it's
Yeah,
not.
like I wouldn't if it was like the Daily Tablet. I'd be like, I'm sorry for wasting
I don't
everyone's
mean
time
I
here.
don't mean to say this in terms of like I don't mean to be like I don't know the man, so I hate to like besmirch him in any like public way, but like he does seem a little bit like a dick. Um, I'm not like, and I know it's like a rudimentary way to like categorize somebody, but like in his interviews, he's a little pompous. He's a little strange.
Man, you just
He's
if
an
you got
amazing
the most
writer.
adaptations,
I
man, you
know.
feel some kind of way.
He probably does. And listen, I probably would have the same ego, but I just mean, listen, doesn't make it any less true.
He was a
Um,
big time fan of Vega's
I
song.
don't listen. I don't hate him. I don't hate him. He like, dude, bro. I was a huge Lou Bega fan. Like, I had that album, and I think his follow up record, and I was like all over. I
Yeah,
know
but
that whole album front to back.
what do you think it'd take for your wife to threaten to divorce you? Because, and I quote, he said, "My wife threatened to divorce me." I played that a lot.
I don't know, man. That song was already on the radio a lot too. You got to be kind of something's wrong with you if you want to hear it. I mean, too much cocaine. I don't know what his problem was, but like
One of
that
them
song
was
was.
just the instrumental.
Oh
So,
my
and
god,
then he
he's an
goes,
asshole.
I played that thing until my wife just said one more time, and I'm gonna fucking leave you.
And he looked at her, and he just had the needle up over the record, and
Where?
he was like,
He just goes, Mambo number 5.
no, he took the whole record off, and he just smashed it against the wall, and then just walked out. I
That's
don't
all he
hear it
wanted.
anymore. No, I don't know. I don't know about that's a strange factoid, and I believe it entirely just based on the strange character that was Stephen King. And I mean, he had a lot of troubles, man. I mean, he was really rich and really famous and writing a lot of really dark shit. And I wonder a lot about like what his well, we were mentioning this, we were talking a little bit in the in like some of the pre-show talk, not tonight but like over the course of prep, that like we were thinking about potentially doing like a biography on King, like at some point down the road. And I think that'd be worthwhile because there's a lot that he's had a weird life, and I'd like to know more about him, and like how he was raised and like what his childhood experiences were, and I mean
Who his
something's
best friend was
he's got
growing
a
up.
he's got a couple screws loose. I mean, we all do, but I want to know about the man before
Put
I
the man under the
yeah,
microscope.
just a little
But
bit.
yeah,
The
no, I'd
peripheral
like
views
that.
microscope is pretty like
It's a wide lens.
it's very wide. Yeah, I mean,
It's a fisheye.
literally, but yeah, but
Um, but yeah, no, 1408. I liked it because it's a. I always like stuff where like you're not quite sure whether it's like actually happening or if the dude's just going crazy.
also
Like I
takes
love
place
that
in a
kind of thing.
hotel again too.
Right.
This
You
time
gotta
in New
think
York
that the dude's
City.
just writing in hotels all the time.
Yeah, yeah, for sure because he's doing book tours and like this is what
He writes every day,
his
and he's like, "Yo, this
imagination is
hotel's kind of weird."
yeah, the dark fantasy side of him just like comes out when he's like whenever he wants and in whatever setting he wants, and because he was clearly writing this stuff like along the way. But all right, let me dive in. I'm gonna hit you with my number four. My number four, fourth best in my perspective, mind you guys. Couple ground. Well, we'll go over the ground rules when we switch into the next list. But uh, remember, folks who are listening, like this is our perspective. This is how we feel. This isn't like this is our critical lens. It's everybody's got a
I
different.
picked some stuff hoping that you would just pick some stuff that we could talk about. So like,
Yeah, I mean,
there's a thing or two that I left off. But
I just tried to rank them in terms of like my favorites because I've seen
yes,
a lot of them, and I just what are my favorites, and maybe that matches up with like critical reception, maybe it doesn't, but I don't really care. I'm picking my favorites. Number four for me is you just mentioned it. It's Misery, um, Misery with James Caan. And Misery with James Caan and Kathy Bates. And Kathy Bates, one of Kathy Bates' best performances ever, for sure. One of the best female performances in a film ever, as Annie Wilkes. Um, Paul Sheldon, the writer, once again, another writer, gets in a car accident, gets himself freaking stranded with Crazy Lady, and yeah, she's breaking them ankles. She's got him tied down. She's nursing him. She won't let him go.
I want to get a
Um,
T-shirt where it's just like Kathy Bates like crossing them up,
on the
like
court.
basketball, just like and then he's just like rolling his.
That's perfect. Well, I want to say this because it's a good opportunity to just mention Rob Reiner because Rob Reiner had a fucking stretch, man. He had two Stephen King movies, um, I think, right? Am I wrong about that? Oh yeah, two Stephen King movies. Well, we're gonna talk about the other one in a minute, but um, Rob Reiner, freaking what a stretch! Listen to this guy's freaking stretch of the '80s. Like, listen what he did in the '80s, leading all the way up to Misery in 1990. This is Spinal Tap, first film ever. The Sure Thing, which can't say I've seen. Stand by Me, The Princess Bride, When Harry Met Sally, Misery in 1990, and then A Few Good Men in 1992. I mean, Jesus, what a fucking run of movies! Like, good grief! Like, you've got classic after classic, and I mean, Misery's great, right? I mean, you've seen Misery? Is that one hit?
No, I haven't, but I know of it.
Oh, you haven't, bro. This Halloween, just get yourself involved. Actually, it's pretty good for like the winter because most of it actually does take place in like that's half the problem is that she's got him captive, but like he can't go anywhere because he's like in the blizzard. Um, dude, it's a masterpiece. It really is. It's a great film. Like this has nothing to do with Stephen King's writing. in terms of why I think it's good. Like it's like it's a doubly. It's like you got a great filmmaker and a great screenplay writer in William Goldman, along with just like the trifecta. You've got great direction, great screenplay writing, a great novel to adapt, and then you've got James Caan and Kathy Bates, like two amazing American actors. So, um, anybody who hasn't seen, go back to 1990 because what a film, and that's one of those movies too. It's always on TV. You can always catch it. It's always on ABC, especially this time of year, and it's great. Errol, let's move into your number 3. Hit me with it.
Number 3 is gonna be the dog Cujo.
Mm. Oh, that nasty dog, that dirty dog.
Um, I like Cujo because it's like almost realistic.
It's really
Um,
realistic. Listen, as a UPS driver,
right. So like here's the thing too, like in like a time of just like zombies and aliens and just like crazy, like like you got like monsters that can actually, or like people stabbing people. It's just like an inconspicuous, like, oh, what happened to the junkyard dog? Got bit on the nose by a rabbit, and now the friendly dude that was just like there to bark at people, like a literal, like almost zombified. Like
well, he's a
by the
Saint
end of the
Bernard,
movie,
right? He's like
yeah.
which are like
Well,
the
I wrote
stockiest,
Mastiff,
happiest dogs ever.
right. But by the end of the movie, like he's just covered in like slime, like becomes like a zombie, like pretty much. And like
Wow.
you have the fear, like if you get rabies, what happens to you? You never know. Like you get all slimy. Like pretty much that was like the zombie outbreak. Like you
Right.
know what I mean? But like almost like making it like more realistic. But I just like dogs, so I felt so bad.
Yeah, it's a tough. It is a tough watch because you do feel bad. It's well,
He
first
didn't
of all,
do
the whole
nothing
movie
wrong.
takes place in that little Ford Pinto too, right? Like, I mean, for the most part, they're just stuck in the car the whole movie, which and it's
Right.
pretty good. It's really compelling. Like, it really keeps you on edge. You wondering like, how are they getting out of this situation?
You gotta think like what would you do? And I was like, you can't grab that slimy dog. Like
Did you grow up with Cujo? Was that like the movie you
I
saw as
saw it
a
when I was
kid?
young. Yep, I
Yeah,
was
me
that little
too.
kid in the back seat screaming.
Yeah, me too.
what would
Well, I
what my
remember like
mom do?
seeing, I remember like blocking out all of like the intro stuff, and then like when they got to the house and they're in the car, and like the dog is like he first shows up, and they're like trapped in the car. That's where my memories are kind of locked in. Where I'm
Dude,
like,
Cujo traumatized me so bad when I saw the Sandlot and like I was like, it's Cujo.
you know what's bullshit? Okay, I was just reading the critical response to Cujo from this. The film was directed by Louis Teague, from 1983. Bro, Siskel and Ebert just tore this movie apart, and fuck them for that. I don't get that. Like, so Gene Siskel of the Chicago Tribune says 1 star out of 4, calling it one of the dumbest, flimsiest excuses for suspense or for a movie I've ever seen. Roger Ebert called it dreadful. What's wrong with Cujo, man? Cujo's really good. It's fucking original, and it's whatever. It's not like
They're just like, yeah, it's great if you're a baby, and like then there's like 6-year-old me. I'm like, yo, this kind of scary, dude.
yeah, right. Yeah, but listen, I respect both of those guys as like film critics, but I think they missed. Once again, there's always a part of horror that like you kind of have to just stop being a critic and just
Well,
be
so that's the
entertained.
thing. That those reviews remind me of like myself back in the day because I was like, it's got to be something deeper than this. Like,
Yeah,
I need
start
like a
diving in.
psychological thriller, or
No,
else
you
it's
just
just
suspend the disbelief, sit back and enjoy. It's not that like this is what horror and comedy are for. Like if you want to dissect films, you know what films those are. And sometimes they are thrilling.
half of the
No,
dialogue was the dog barking, and I
no.
simply was removed.
I just thought that the dog should have a little bit more to say about socio-political problems in the country at the time. 1983 was a very challenging year with Reaganomics in place.
Right.
It's just like, bro, not everything's about everything. You know what I mean? Like movies are not always meant that sometimes you just gotta just sit back and
I thought it was scary because it wasn't that far fetched. Like when I saw all these other scary movies when I was lying there in bed, like I'd be like, all right, there's no such thing as zombies. There's no such thing as Michael Myers. There's no such thing as Jason. There's not. Okay, I'm good. I'd be like, a dog could get bit by a rabbit.
but
I'm
not
like,
only
that could
that,
happen.
right. This is there's the realism, but like and so I have always said my like policy with it is like give me a reasonable amount of suspension of belief. Like don't make me suspend too much disbelief because if I have to suspend too much disbelief, I'm out. You're gonna take me out of the film. But like I'm willing to give you some. Like I watched we'll talk a little bit later about Barbarian. Did you get a chance to watch that by the way?
I didn't. I
Oh,
didn't.
well, put that on your queue because it was one of those where I was like, okay, you're really pushing the boundaries of my suspension of disbelief here, but you're right on the line. And that's kind of where you want to be. You want to be like, because you can push a film really into like some pretty dark corners if you don't cross that line. You keep people, okay, I'm willing to like accept that this decision would lead to this decision. And, that's how horror movies go, and you want to hit that sweet spot where like okay I can push the content and I can push what happens to like a pretty violent place and a scary place, but if you cross into the dark zone then like okay now you've lost me because I just don't buy that anybody would be this stupid, or I don't buy that like this situation this scenario could take place. And listen, a vile murderous giant Saint Bernard who's been like infested with rabies that basically traps a mother and their child in a car is not that far fetched. It's just
Right. And then back in the day, there was no cell phones or nothing. I was like, dude.
yeah. I think it's great, man. No, that's a good pick. That was your number three, right?
Hmm.
Okay, number three for Erroll. Let's do a quick recap. So my number five was It. My number four was Misery. Errol's number five, The Mist. Number four, 1408. Number three, Cujo. Moving into my number three, and we will kind of start hitting the jets here. We'll start moving forward a little bit faster. Okay, my number three for Stephen King film adaptations. And this Errol, your jaw is going to hit the floor a little bit, and I'm probably going to upset you. I might upset you because this is my number three. I don't even know how to justify it, but I think I will once we get moving along. My number three all time Stephen King adaptation is it's the big one. It's The Shining. And,
Oh,
and I know that probably upsets you because of how much you love The Shining and how much I love The Shining. But it just so happens that Stephen King produced three novels that turned into three of genuinely my favorite films. This is why Stephen King is such an important person to talk about. Um, he just so happened to make three of my all time favorite films, or at least be in like his writing was adapted to be three of my all time favorite films. I would say that my top three Stephen King film adaptations are in my top 10 films of all time or favorite
mm.
films of all time. Um, but yes, number three is The Shining, and Jesus, like you can't really say anything too passive about The Shining. 1980, um, pure fucking horror, pure psychological. I mean, I guess you could add maybe the psychological aspect of it. Stanley Kubrick's first and only horror film, really, like pure horror film. And you know how Stanley Kubrick was. We've talked about The Shining a little bit because of Wendy Carlos biography that we did. And
And we're going to talk about it again.
and we're going to talk about it again because we should just announce it now. We will be doing a film that'll be our next introduction into the film series. We are doing The Shining in a couple weeks, basically 2 weeks, right? Is that about right? Is that
Yeah,
the
yeah. Not
schedule?
to tell you guys how the sausage is made or
But it's
anything, but
coming. It's coming. Yep, we'll be doing it at the end of the month. I think on the 28th of October, just before Halloween. We're gonna sit down and talk about that mammoth of the film. So we won't go too deep into the. We don't need to go too deeply into the film now because we are going to dedicate an entire podcast to it. Um, but it's a
spoiler,
masterpiece. It's a
spoiler alert,
masterpiece. Go ahead.
spoiler alert. One of the reasons I left it off of this list,
Oh, it's not even on your top five.
it's not because I think it's above it. It would be
The
disingenuous to say that this is the quote unquote best adaptation because I do believe it was a culmination of both him, Kubrick, uh, Wendy Carlos, the actors.
oh,
It's beyond
you
just
know what I
like
could agree with? See, I don't. I can. I think what you're trying to say, and maybe you tell me if this is not what you're trying to say, but this is like the film is beyond the adaptation because like obviously there's a lot of dialogue, recorded dialogue out there of Stephen King basically denouncing the film as
mhm,
a legitimate adaptation of his book. I've
right.
read the book and he is right. There is a lot of deviations. Um, there's quite a few deviations, but like I think the tone is right, and I don't know because I've seen this is a problem with actually seeing a film
He
before you.
said, I think he was quoted to saying that he wished it had more of a like the spooky aspect and a more of a family aspect.
Right. No, I could see that. Yeah, that would make sense. I
Like
just
the hotel itself was supposed to be more. Oh, it was supposed to be more obvious that the hotel was the evil entity. Like it was the hotel causing all the grief.
right because it's built on Indian burial ground. We'll get into all that. There's so much there. I don't want to talk too much about the film. I just want to put it in its place. But you leaving it off the list surprises me, but it does it because it actually does make sense to me because the film I think it does exist outside of the world of Stephen King because it strangely doesn't really feel like a Stephen King film.
Dude, it
You know
feels,
what I
dude,
mean?
that movie feels haunted.
Stop! You're gonna send shivers down my spine, man. You're
It's like
so
it's
right.
weird. It's
It
such a
is
weird
so
movie.
weird. It is so bizarre. There is something so special going on with that film. There's so much to talk about with it, but you're absolutely right. It genuinely feels like that movie is possessed by like spirits. Like it is.
Yeah, no, that's it's
There's something
it's
very, 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 very strange going on with that film, and like
it never
what
you're
they
never
capture.
settled. You're never settled.
Bro, the whole film, the whole set burned to the ground. That happened. That's real. Like it cost Kubrick. There's a picture of Kubrick standing beside an entire burnt down set with like some quirky smile on his face. Like, I don't give a shit. Let this just happen. Like, there's so much weirdness with that film, and it is. It's like it's almost like it captured like I don't know. This is the story of Kubrick. It's like Kubrick was an alien sent down from another time, and gave us all the gifts that he gave us. But like, we'll get into all that. Obviously, that's my number three because I felt like I had to put it on the list just because. I mean, I don't. I
I'm glad
understand
you
what
did. I wagered.
I understand where you're coming from because it is a weird adaptation because like King was just not happy with it. Um, but as far as like I feel weird. I felt too weird to not leave it on the list, but genuinely, just as a film, I'm more fascinated with the film than I love the film. And I do love the film, so it's not. I'm not. This is not a. I don't mean to like be. I'm not talking down on the film. I adore the film. It is among probably my. It's in my top 10 great like favorite films of all time to watch. It's so fascinating, but like I think that the next two, I'll explain more as we move into the my final two on the list as to what the difference is. So I'll save that for my point. Let's move into your number three, Errol. What's your number three Stephen King film adaptation?
You mean is it? Yeah, no, number two.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, we already hit your number three. So
Yep.
Errol's got The Mist, 1408, and Cujo, 5, 4, and 3. What's number two? Hit us with it.
We're gonna head to old Shawshank
Oh, yes.
to get
Beautiful
redeemed.
pick. Okay. Tell me about it. What do you feel about
Um,
what's your thoughts? I mean, there's a
excellent
lot of thoughts, but
excellent period piece, excellent acting. Um,
oh,
just a great story. All the every it just seemed everyone there just seemed so like smart. You know what I mean? Like it's like a
in the production, like basically the whole thing.
oh yeah, like it's all just and it's like the one of the first things where you find Morgan Freeman like narrating stuff. Like it's just I feel like
It
that
is.
was
Yeah,
like
it's
the
true.
number one. But
I've always said this, and like I hope one day that we talk about the film. I will say this. I actually think that this is it's a little controversial to say, and I don't know that enough people. I don't know. I actually no. I'm gonna be non-conflicted about it. I'm gonna be convicted about it.
say
I
it.
I genuinely think that not nearly enough people regard Morgan Freeman's performance in this film as one of the greatest acting performances ever captured on film. I
Right.
really do. I really do. And I know that and honestly, it's because of himself. It's because of the choices he made in his career, where he kind of reiterates this role time and time again as like movies went on. Like he kept being in films, kind of redoing this role in some ways, like the kind of a little bit subdued, soft spoken,
And
very
this is like the culmination of that.
but like the little nuances of his acting in this film, it is a great performance. And I don't mean to take the mic from you, but like I'll just spoil it. This is my number one. So, but Yes,
Oh,
great number two
spoiler
pick.
alert.
Yeah, big spoiler alert, but yeah, no, that is a great pick. Well, let's move into we'll move into my number two so we can start because um, I think I know what both of our number ones are now, but let's move into my number two and we'll circle back to the show. I'll admit, I'll spoil it now. This is my number one pick. So we'll talk about it a little bit more at length, how we both felt about the film once we get to that spot in the list. So, um, my number two, right? Is that where I'm at? Number two.
Yeah, because you ruined it.
I ruined it. You soiled it. Soiled
He asked for a number two and you gave him a one. You gave him a one.
it. It's all right. I mean, number two for me is in all time. I'm surprised that we haven't actually gotten to it yet. Errol, I wonder if you've even seen it. I'm wondering because being that it's not, I don't think. Well, I don't know what your number one is yet, but I'm pretty confident. Being that it doesn't appear that it's going to make it on your list, my number two is the 1986 film, the coming of age drama, based on The Body by Stephen King. It is Stand by Me by Rob Reiner from 1986. I can't
Oh.
I can't explain to you what this film means to me. It is probably in my top five favorite films of all time, and not it has nothing to do with. It's one of it's the one, and I'm going to be a little hyperbolic, I'm sure, but it's one of the few films in the world that I watch, and I'm like, I don't care. I can watch this film and just strip away every ounce of like technical filmmaking and like this error and this acting doesn't work. Like I just can strip all of that away and just literally absolve into this film. Like I've watched this movie. It's one of like my earliest memories of like watching like a movie where kids were like smoked and they had guns and they swore and shit. Like it just got in my bones. It's like a part of me.
Just
Like
actual kids being cool.
yeah, like it totally influenced me in this way. And I when I say that it's a part of me, I mean that like literally. Like it is genuinely a part of my identity. Like I saw this young enough. I probably saw this first time when I was 8 or 9, which was probably too young in all honesty, but like
Yeah.
it's a little what it did for me is like I can't honestly say I ever regret that because it is just literally a part of my identity. These kids all were like I was like shit, man, I just want to be like these dudes. Like Chris Chambliss, man, he's fucking cool as shit. Like Gordy's cool as shit. He's a little bit of a dork, but he's like smart. I didn't want to be like Vern. Nobody wants to be like Vern. Vern's lame, dude. Vern's super lame, but like, and
You want to see a dead body?
Teddy's a psychopath, but like, you kind of like him because he's kind of cool. But I don't know. This movie is. I watch it and then like, I feel like even my family, like if they ever watch the film, they probably think of me because I was so obsessed with it. It is a
You wanted to see a dead body?
No, no. Because what's so beautiful about the film, and this is why Stephen King is a better writer than people give him credit for, is like that the body is secondary. It's the journey. It's about the adventure. Like it's about the film closes on like a similar note that the novella, because it's actually the body is not a book, it's a novella. It's like a short story. Same with Shawshank. But like it ends on the note of like the best friends you'll ever have. I think the quote from the film is like the best friends you'll never have friends like the ones you had when you were 12. And like that just gets you every time. You hear that, especially when as you get older, you hear that and you're just like, fuck, man. Yeah, that's true. Like how many adventures you went on when you were a kid. Like it's just it harkens back to like there's something about like the youth and being and like reaching back to the youth and like truly and Stephen King does this so much in both his writing and like the film adaptation stuff. Like he's always just trying to reach back to the youth and the innocence around it. Um and this movie does that like so many times, but also it's realistic about it. Like kids were bastards. They were
Oh
shitty
yeah.
kids. There were kids that were doing like some really fucking awful things, and they're being.
I would watch stuff as a little kid and I'd be like, y'all ain't giving me no credit.
Mhm. Yeah, exactly. Like, and also kids are a lot smarter than you think. Like, of course, because that's just the truth. Like, I don't know. It's just one of those. It's one of those movies where. Well, I'll say this. I already mentioned that Shawshank's my number one, and this is my number two. Those two films are two of like maybe like five films ever that I cannot watch in full. Like sit down and I'm gonna watch the whole movie, and I get really, really, really emotional at the end. Like I get really emotional. Like I cannot contain myself. Like it really gets me. Like it really gets me. It still speaks to me because they like mean something to me in like a very much deeper way. And like this one specifically is like really, really attached to my youth and being like a kid again. And I don't know. It's super tight too. It's fucking 89 minutes. That's under an hour and a half. You can get through this whole film, and it's a great summertime movie. It's just the four boys are they're just following the freaking the train tracks into the wilderness. They're camping out. Like,
Train.
yeah, you remember? Have you seen it? By the way, I should ask. Have you seen it?
I've watched it, but I haven't like seen it.
Oh
You know
man,
what I
give
mean?
give it another go as like an adult. I'm telling you, it really holds up. Some of it's a little corny and like it's still very good. Like it's still so good. It makes you so happy. And by the way, like the town that it was based in, Castle Rock, became like a massive Hollywood studio. Castle Rock Entertainment. I'm sure you've seen it on like the production side of things. Like when a movie starts, you see Castle Rock Entertainment right at the beginning.
Hmm.
A bunch of movies. So a masterpiece. Truly an all-time favorite for me, and probably not everybody's I know a lot of people like this movie, but like maybe they wouldn't put it in their they wouldn't put it ahead of The Shining, but for me it just means so much more to me than The Shining does. While it's like I said, The Shining is fascinating in some deep ways, but this one means a lot. So
Yeah. No, the reason I chose Shawshank for number two was kind of like a coin flip. It was honestly between that and what likely
number
you
one,
thought would be my number one.
which is I'm sorry, what'd you say?
It's probably what you thought my number one would be.
Yeah, it's what
Was
I
the
think.
coin?
So go ahead, drop
It
it.
was
Hit
the
him
it
with
was the Green Mile
the
was the would
Green
be,
Mile.
but I do like the story of Shawshank more. I think it's a more like complete picture, and I just while Green Mile is like a great, and I just don't. It's a sad story, and I'm like
Oh,
I'm mad at the end. So
it's so tough.
that there's no reason why that should be out of my list, but it was a coin flip, like genuinely a coin flip. My number one, dude, you're all gonna laugh at me.
Oh wait, so you have two number ones.
No, that wasn't my number one. That was the
The
runner
Green
up for.
Mile. I'm sorry, you're throwing a massive curveball at me. You're saying
Yeah, that's
Green
what.
Mile is
So
not
it
the
was a
Green
coin
Mile is
flip.
not your number one.
My number two was a coin flip between Green Mile and Shawshank. You
Also, you
probably would.
bumped Green Mile from your list.
Yeah, I had to.
Whoa. Okay, what's number one? I'm super curious now. Okay.
Yeah, no, you're gonna laugh at me.
No, I'm
You're all
not.
gonna laugh at me.
This is subjective. Go for it.
You're all gonna laugh at me.
Number one, Stephen King adaptation film wise for Errol Hooker is.
Carrie.
Ooh, no, I can't laugh at that, bro. Carrie's
No,
crazy
sorry, it was
good.
that's the mom. They're all gonna laugh at you.
Oh, I see.
The probably.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
no. So
referential.
yeah. No, I tried to sneak it in, but I couldn't. I can't contain myself.
Sissy
Yes,
Spacek, the original, right?
I
Not the remake.
yes, the of course the original. I just think it's a great. There's not a lot of movies like even at all that like accurately tackle bullying.
Oh yeah.
Like think of like typical 80s movies. It's like or like Revenge of the Nerds and like stuff like that. Like, oh, the nerds like end up like, they're getting bullied, but like eventually, like, every the dorks have or the whoever's the jerk has their comeuppance to some degree. This one is just like, nah, they're just dogging this girl.
You
Like
know
to
what?
know to
I'm
hmm?
so happy that you did this, though. I'm so happy that you. First of all, Larry Cohen is the guy who wrote the screenplay, and Brian De Palma directed it. Who are like, dude, they are fucking amazing. Like Brian De Palma made Scarface and The Untouchables. Like, and I just want to full disclosure. Like, I have actually. I'm not gonna say I've never seen Carrie because I think I have seen it in pieces as a child. I've never really sat down and watched it front to back. I think I'm due. I would say I'm definitely due. Maybe that'll be something I watch here soon because I know I felt like I always felt like I knew the premise and I kind of saw enough of it to kind of get it, but I don't really think I don't think I did. I don't think I've given it
I
what's
think the
fair.
whole thing's a terribly scary metaphor for um
Bullying.
the dangers of bullying, and it's especially poignant today.
Oh, for sure,
Um,
especially with like the cyberbullying and that.
well, no, with like school shootings and stuff.
Oh, right. Okay, yeah. Like
So
you'll have to
here's
forgive me because the plot. I'm not. You can
so
spoil
I'll
it for the
so yeah,
sake of the
total spoilers. Here's what happens. It's a young girl who is like kind of, just typical offbeat girl, like in like the 80s, like, but she just gets bullied like endlessly, like to no avail. Her mother's just like an ultra, just an ultra like stoic
podcast.
Christian. So like she gets little help from her other than like, why don't you just pray about it and like go to church more? Like her mom doesn't really like her. And she finds out that she like has like psychic powers as like she gets angry, like stuff just starts like floating around and stuff as she gets mad. And like she wants to control it, but that's one thing. Like she can't go to her mom about it. Like because her mom
Right.
is just a Christian, she's gonna like think that she's like possessed or something. And
Oh,
then she doesn't have any friends or anything to like talk to about it. So
yeah.
what
See, this all
happens
makes
is
sense. This is all like fitting pretty well with like what my understanding of the film was, but
right.
the
So what
book.
happens is at the end, everyone pulls this cool YouTube prank. Dude, we're gonna prank her. Um,
Dump her in paint or whatever, right?
they to cover in pig's blood. They say she's a prom queen,
Mhm.
and then they just dump her like they would like biohazard, and she just snaps and like blows up the whole venue and like lights it all on fire, and like everyone dies while she's just covered in blood.
What the fuck?
So you substitute those psychic telekinesis powers with like a gun, and that's what like happens. Like, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
that's like
that's
for
what's
more or
going on
less.
today. Yeah.
You
So
could you could
there's a socio political like message that's kind of reaching across generations now.
Right. Like it just wasn't there wasn't a way to accurately like really convey that back in the day. Well, not like
Right.
accurately, but like that is the
King
metaphor.
was
He
doing it, man, because King was.
right. Like he's
I
like,
bet
"Oh
you
yeah,
he was bullied. I would
yeah,
be
he's like,
curious
what
to
if someone
know.
really did have like psychic
Yeah,
powers and they can do that? Everyone would die. Everyone would die."
fascinating.
And like nowadays they're like, kids are like, "I'm going to shoot up everyone. Like everyone's going to die." Sick
That's
of getting made
insane.
fun of. But that's there's just like say if you have like it's all like a metaphor though. Like, the psychic powers just for like, firearms. She sets fire to everything, so fires upon it. Her the problems that she's having, like to compared to like her mother, she could like you know,
I
she
would like
feels
to.
different.
I would
Hmm?
like to nominate. I would like to genuinely nominate this film for a future film pod because honestly, because it's so fascinating to me, and I haven't seen. I don't think I'm like familiar enough with it. It's one of those class. You know how it is sometimes. Like some classics, you just don't get as like intimate with
I think it's
unless you
like
do
my
it long enough.
mom's favorite movie, but I was just like, that's because you were bullied.
It looks amazing, and what a message! And like and it very much feels like a Stephen King thing
So
for
I
sure.
don't think that that was like the immediate message like at the time. I don't want to like say that that was, but that's just that's the line that I draw, and I'm like, dude, I'm like, you bully someone enough, like you never know like
Right.
who you're messing with.
Well, it's not only that; it's just like yeah, because you could. It's not even who you're messing with. It's like how far can you sometimes push people, and then they,
Right. And what will they do? Like, you know what I mean? Like, but
you know,
that's a thing though. Like just watching it, I'm like, dude, like I'm like, she's got
apropos.
like
Yeah.
no support from anywhere. And it's like, that like what she can do, and you're like, yo, you better start treating this lady with some respect.
Yeah. Well, okay. So listen, let's move. I'm gonna move my list ahead. I'm gonna close mine out, and then so we can start the secondary ranking part of the show.
Mhm.
Um, and we already said it. It's Shawshank Redemption. So we'll end on a positive note. Because it carries a dark film, man. As far as I can understand it, and it's 1976, so it's really an early adaptation for him. Like, one of the first it seems because the novels from 74, so it's not new, but Shawshank Redemption was everybody knows it. It's revered as like it's my number one. I've already kind of explained why. It's so positive. By the way, one of the great twists. People don't consider it to be one of the like a twist ending movie, right? But it fucking is like very clearly. Like it's a very twist ending, right? I mean that's
Mhm.
and
Because
it's
the
a
whole thing is it's a man like achieving the unachievable against like
well, you
crazy
think
odds.
the like the quote of the film is embodied in the twist, right? Because like he sits with Red, they have that like conversation. They're always having such beautiful, deep conversations. That novella is where he shines. Like his writing is incredible, and he's touching stuff that's beyond horror. It's beyond like suspense. He's just touching on philosophy, on like human philosophy, and about about hope, and about like the whole film is obviously centered around hope and the concept of hope, and like what that means to a man and how dangerous it can be, and like how like the restraints of it, and like innocence and guilt, and like prison systems and all that. Like that's all in there. But like the trope of like not the trope, but the quote from the film of "get busy living or get busy dying" is like embodied in the twist, because it's like the whole time they're making, and spoiler alert for once again the fifth time, but just in case, um, the whole time they're making you think that he's gonna commit suicide because his hope is demolished, and instead which would be the get busy dying, but instead he escapes and gets busy living.
Right.
And it's just perfect. It's so beautiful. The score. If I can't even listen to the score, I get emotional listening to it. It's such a powerful film. I loved it. I saw it at a perfect time in my life, a time in which I truly needed something like that. It's tough to be 14, and I grew up with some tough situations when I was 14, household wise, and that film was just like this beacon of light. It was hope for me. It like represents hope. So like I can't even watch the film without getting super emotional.
If your house is a prison.
No, not like that. Just no one's upbringing is perfect. It's how it is. It's complicated, but like it's nice when a film stands out when you see it, when you're like just at the right age to like get it, instead of just watching it passively and like, oh, this was entertaining. Like I saw it for the first time when I could understand the themes of it, and it was like, shit, you're hitting the right notes. And Darabont, which we've talked about him from The Mist previously, and Green Mile, great director, great film, amazing message, great writing. And Erroll, your number one is Carrie. My number one is Shawshank. Both very opposite ends of the spectrum, because I think Shawshank is like probably the most optimistic thing Stephen King ever, contributed to cinema, and I think Carrie is kind of on the other end of that. So
yeah,
I don't know if that says anything about us. But both great films. I'm definitely going to rewatch Carrie now. You've got me super interested in rewatching that. So Stephen King, a pillar of cinematic adaptation for sure, and a really important person in the world of horror and of cinema just at large. I mean, he's created some of the greatest films of all time. So that being said, Errol, let's take a quick break. We'll take our first break of the night, and then we're gonna come back and we're gonna plow through the secondary part of the ranking show tonight. We're gonna do quickly. We're gonna move through it quick. We won't take too much time to talk. We'll talk a little bit about each film, but we're going to do our top 10 horror films of all time when we get back from this break. So hang tight, and we'll be right back. All right, folks, thanks for jumping back in. Thanks for the patience. We appreciate it. We're back from our break. Appreciate the patience on that. We are now going to dive into our top 10 horror films of all time. We were just wrapping up our top 5 Stephen King film adaptations. Now we're going to dive into our top 10 horror films of all time. So pretty seamless double list that we've got going on. A good double rankings list for the pod. Because Stephen King, being the king of horror in terms of literature that he is, let's talk a little bit. We'll kind of expand on that universe and dive into some of the more horror classic stuff that we've been leaving out, talking just about Stephen King. So, Errol, why don't you hit us with your number 10? What's your number 10 horror film of all time?
So, real quick before I delve into the list, I want to let people know that I'm not a horror expert, nor is this my favorite genre. As a matter of fact,
right. We should probably let's lay out the ground. I want to do that first. We'll just lay out.
Mine are pretty. Yeah, we'll do that. Mine are pretty simple. I just it never was my favorite genre growing up. I always felt like I never was really too quick to like be scared. And also, I would never want to be scared. Like I was like, if something is scary enough for me to see that, I don't want to have like an existential crisis kind of thing.
Right. Yeah.
So I never felt it was like my speed, but there is definitely as I grow older, you got to look out for the monsters are just there to show you who the true monsters are more often than not.
Oh, true.
And that's kind of why, like, I picked the Mist on the last list. That is not why I'm picking number 10 on this list. For if you want to go into your, oh, well, no, I'll go into my 10 and then you can do your spiel. Um, my number 10 is Final Destination. Uh,
Yes.
I, s-
Right.
I saw it when I was really young, and I was like, man, one of those movies where I'm like, yeah, it's like it's a pretty scary movie, but it left the theater with me where I was like, I might not be safe.
Right. Because
I
it's
was like,
the whole movie is like centered, the concept of it is centered around like we're gonna introduce death and like accidental death specifically into all of the scenarios that everybody who leaves the theater
because
take
like
home.
every horror movie, the one thing and think about it, in every horror movie, the one thing you want to do is escape death. What about and then whoever made this, they're like, what about in this movie? What if you do escape death, but then that means you have a death sentence? I was like, oh no. What
Yeah.
if I did miss something? Like, like the butterfly effect, and
And then
now,
you live your whole life wondering when that's coming.
right.
Which actually it actually leads perfectly into mine, which is my number 10 is actually similar ilk. And that is number 10, A Nightmare on Elm Street for me, which is sleep. You die in your sleep. Somebody a child murderer kills you in your sleep with
Yeah.
knives for fingers. Like,
One of those things where you leave the theater and you're like, yo, I might have left that, but I have to go to sleep
I gotta
tonight.
go
Like
home and
I
go to
didn't
sleep now.
I have to actually take a nap at some point. Then I'm gonna have to deal with this straight up. Like that's another thing that leaves with you too.
Yeah, it works great, and it's like any film that does that uses the concept of like I'm going to make sure that like your everyday life is now assaulted by this concept, and it's just going to travel with you when you leave the theater. It's great, and a lot of horror films kind of leave you with that like a sensation of like paranoia and like, oh, did I hear something in my closet? Did I hear something down the hall? Did I hear something in my dark kitchen? Like, what am I hearing in my home when the lights are all off and I'm supposed to be sleeping, and this is the time when I'm most vulnerable because I'm asleep.
Things that go bump in the night.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's the phraseology to, but it's a little different when they start eking into your like broad daylight experiences.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's sleep. Some people take a
And
nap.
then like yeah, when you sleep too, like that's the one thing, like you're sleeping, nothing bad can happen as long as you tuck your toes beneath the blanket so you can't get grabbed from like you know what I mean? As long as your feet are tucked in into your blanket, you can't get your
The
toes grabbed
boogie,
by the
the
demon
boogie,
underneath the bed.
right? The boogeyman
As
can't.
long as you're totally tucked underneath, you're safe. But like you're sleeping, and then there's Freddy
Well, I also
Krueger.
I wanted to mention before we get even like further rolling in the list. These picks of ours are going to be like I said, they're not. It's not a critical analysis. I said this about the Stephen King list. It's not so much that it's a critical analysis. It's our subjective opinions on the film and what they mean to us. And guess what? A big percentage of like how we pick these films is going to be nostalgia and like how they affected us as kids when we saw them, and maybe
13 ghosts.
bro, if you pick
Sorry.
13 Ghosts, I'm gonna turn this damn.
Ghost ship.
All right, give me your number 9, Errol. Dive into it. Hit it.
Number 9 is The Hills Have Eyes.
Ooh, original or 2004?
I'll say the 2004. I can't recall the original. Um,
Yeah, I mean, they did a really good job. Like they did a really good job
dude,
with the
something
remake.
about like body horror, and it's almost so it almost feels disingenuous because like it's kind of like almost like a ripoff of Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah, but the original came out before Texas Chainsaw. Believe it or not.
Right.
Actually,
And
no,
then
that's not true. I'm sorry. That's not
no,
true.
no, no, yeah, no, you're wrong. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre was like the first like
Yeah, you no, yeah.
slasher kind of. It kind of set the tune
Hey,
for everything.
we are hitting Wes Craven twice already in the top two because Wes Craven was A Nightmare on Elm Street. He was also the original Hills Have Eyes. But you're picking the remake, which I actually respect because the original I've seen both, and the original is like um quite jarring because of like obviously the presence of Michael Berryman. He's just a strange looking guy, man. And like I don't know why. I don't
Well,
know.
so that's the thing too. Like there's something about like it very much triggers like the other, like the fear of the other. And then when you portray those people as just actually awful, like
Right.
truly terrible, irredeemable, like it's horrifying. You're like, these guys, and so here's the thing too, it plays on something disingenuous. Uh, like it's so easy to see like an out people and then just be, oh, he looks nasty. He's probably going to do something horrifying. But when they do it, it's like, oh my God, this is horrifying. I don't even, can't even imagine like being around there. Like, but
Well,
that's
it's
what
just
it was.
easy to pick somebody like Michael Barrymore or Berryman was like a guy who. So according to this, he had like a cranial a cranial synostosis that or hypohydronic ectodermal dysplasia, which was a rare genetic condition that affected his like development of sweat glands, skin, hair, and fingernails. So like he just looks strange because of it, and like dude, that dude's it didn't affect his health largely. I think he had like surgery for it as a kid, but like he's 75 years old, still alive today.
Mm,
And he looks terrifying in the original film. In the remake, he's not in the remake, and the remake is way more brutal. I do remember that the remake is like really violent, like viciously violent. But still pretty effective. There's a lot of those like early 2000 films, early 2000s like horror remakes that were actually pretty effective. Like House of Wax was pretty decent, if I remember
mm.
correctly.
See,
Um,
I almost, not to veer off into the honorable mention again, but this was also a coin flip between that and The Descent.
oh my god, I just watched The Descent for the first time since it came out, and I was like, damn, this is like
That shit. But so
wild, bro, wild.
the only reason I didn't choose Descent is because I had never been in that situation. What are you doing down there?
What are
I'm
you
not.
doing, Splunking?
So I'm not claustrophobic or anything, but like at the same time, nope, not doing it.
Yeah, no, I'm not either. And like Splunking is like I was
Like
telling,
so the whole time, like they're in there, I'm like, that's what you get.
yeah, I was telling Ashley the whole time. I was just like this is just not appealing. Like I like adventure. I'm a pretty adventurous guy. I've done some like pretty big hikes, and I've done some like solo hikes on my own that are like spend some time in the woods, like in some remote parts of the country. Like I just have like it's just that's I wouldn't call myself an adrenaline junkie, but I'm willing to like take it's a risky thing to do to like
Dude, I'll go for a hike. I'm telling you, I'll go for a hike with you. The second you're like, let me go in that hole, and then I hear you screaming from there, I'm laughing. I'm
yeah, I'm
sorry,
out.
but the
I'm
first thing I'm doing,
see
I'm
you later.
laughing
Don't
at
don't
you.
forget to throw the
No,
car
I'm
keys up before
well.
you go.
I wouldn't even like. I wouldn't even leave you. Like I'll just help. I'll just start like laughing at you. I'll just be like, "What do you want me to?" You know, I'm not going down
Not
there.
going
Like
down.
what? You got down there and you got hurt.
It's a
Like
pretty
or
good
something.
concept. Well, it's a pretty scary concept to like have nocturnal, like inbred
Well,
cannibals.
it's another thing too. It's kind of like it. Like both of those people, like they evolved or devolved, if
Yeah.
you will, to
Oh
like
yeah.
something else.
It was pretty good, man. And it was a good scare. And it was. I remember when I saw it, I actually thought it was the scariest movie I'd ever seen. And I've come down off that a little bit. I
Me
don't
too.
think it's
Yeah,
like
that's too.
that.
That's the thing too. I thought
When
it
I
was.
first
I
saw
was
it,
like, this shit's terrifying. I was like, nope.
that take when it first came out. But okay,
But
so
then I was like, I'm not going. Why is it scary, but not to me?
no. Okay, so let me dive into my number nine. We got to keep this rolling. My number nine is the the classic. I'm a little ashamed to bring it to throw it in this early in the list at number nine, but it is. I gotta do it. It's the original Evil Dead by Sam Raimi. Sam Raimi
Ooh,
from back in 1981. I fucking love this movie, and this is how much I see. Like you were saying that it was not your favorite genre of film of like film. It's definitely one of mine. And like so basically from here, my whole top 10 are films that I genuinely love. And this movie I absolutely love. I love the spin-offs. I love the sequels, Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness. They get a little bit more comical, but like they're still so much fun. And like, bro, Ash Williams is one of my all-time favorite movie characters. Bruce
he's
Campbell
really
is
cool.
he's so cool, dude. Have you watched Ash versus Evil Dead at all, the show?
I've seen like a couple, but like
It was
not
so
like.
good. It was so good. And this movie is talk about campy. Like this is officially like the most campy film ever made. Super low budget. It was made for like, shows the budget as $375,000. It's estimated to have probably made over the course of time. If you include everything, you wonder what that number looks like. But just this film itself has probably made about 30 million. So it made like 10 times its budget, or even more. Um, It's amazing. It's amazing. It's an amazing film. It's so fun. It's so like it's shocking, violent. It's got some genuinely like scary moments, but also like some pretty hilarious moments. And
And Ash handles all those situations really well.
he's just
Like
the
a
man. He's the
really
man.
good and a really good protagonist. Like
Well,
he's like what you should do.
I want to drop. Yeah, I want to drop a little like
He
anecdote
he
though, if I
he
could.
put he put the idea into my head where like if you get like bit by a zombie or something, just cut it off like
Yeah, you
instantly.
got to hit him with the boomstick, bro. Put a chainsaw on that motherfucker, and then you get the
Right.
boomstick.
That's all you
Um,
need. Like the second you get bit, whoom, take it off.
get it off. Yeah, no, yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, like the writing is so cool. It stays so true to like it's just true horror. It truly it was so unbelievably like influential. And Sam Raimi obviously was super successful, and he had a lot of help on this film. I think the Coen brothers worked on this film with him, or they helped finance it, or something along those. They were involved in the production in some way because they were just getting started out too. But small anecdote on this film. I remember watching this as a kid one morning, and I was like lying in bed watching it with my dad, and like we're just hanging out. It's like a Saturday morning. I think we had some stuff going on later in the morning, but we were just like, ah, screw it, let's just throw this on and watch it. It's like October or whatever, and all of a sudden, like the scene where like the book comes out, you know, the evil book, the Evil Dead book, like they find it and they crack it open, and then all of a sudden, a bunch of books start falling off the shelf in my dad's room, and I'm just like, what is going on? Like, and the house starts shaking. And then we had a dog. The dog we had at the time, Sophie, she was like this old yellow lab, and she just hops off the bed. She's like, what the? She's like barking now, and the whole house starts shaking. And I'm just like, what the fuck is going on? Is this movie cursing my house? Nah, it was just an earthquake, bro. It just
Nice.
timed out perfect with
You
the
know,
movie. It was so fucked
so
up.
that dog thing reminds me. Um, you know what I want to do so bad? Like if I ever made a scary movie,
Let's hear it.
put a dog whistle like at all the eerie parts.
Oh, like a high pitched dog whistle.
Yeah, so you can't hear it, but like every time before something happens, the dog's like, "Whoop," perks up like, "What's
Oh,
that?" And then it's like, "No, what? No, forget that." And then
that's
something
probably what they
happens.
do. If they have to like get a dog to react to something, that's probably what they do.
Right,
Um,
but I just wonder if you can like hear that through
yeah,
or if the dogs can hear it rather, and like we can't. But like that, I think that'd be a
it's a
little
good idea.
bastard thing to do.
Pretty
I'm
good.
scared the dog barks before, and then it burp, and then something. Dude, this movie's cursed. It's like no, just a dog whistle.
All
Um,
right, give me your number. Wait, did you do number nine? You did number nine was The Hills Have
yeah,
Eyes.
Hills Have Eyes.
Give me your number eight. We're moving into number eight.
We're looking at something we don't need to talk about too much. We already did. We're looking at the thing.
Ooh, number eight coming in high. Oh wow, that actually makes a lot of sense. So, yeah, no, we talked a ton about the thing, and I will fully admit the thing is coming up on my list at some point here too, because, and we both gave it a really high rating. It was the first pod, bro, first pod we ever did
Yeah.
for
Oh
Peripheral Use
yeah.
podcast. If you're listening, if you, we can, that'll be a good opportunity for us to like push our lists a little bit ahead. If anybody is looking to hear what we have to say about the thing, dive back to our pilot episode. We did that one back over the summer of 2023. We did a full episode on the thing. It's definitely,
Body horror, cabin fever, masterpiece.
yes, truly a masterpiece, an absolute masterpiece, and one of my all-time favorite movies. It'll be coming up on my list, and we'll use that as another opportunity to push our lists ahead. But okay, so that's your number eight, right?
Mm-hmm.
My number eight is actually coming in. I had to include something modern, and I had a list of modern films. I'll actually introduce a couple of the two that I had to include. I had to include one of them, and the other one was going to get bounced from the list. And for me, it was the Ari Aster film Hereditary, or which ended up Hereditary ended up getting the shaft. It ended up getting the axe, so to speak.
Ooh.
As much as I love that film, it is because it is quite shocking. I ended up taking a different modern film, and my number eight coming in is Robert Eager's The Witch. And
That was almost my eight, but
yeah,
that one got the X.
I personally think The Witch is the scariest modern film I've seen yet, and it's so scary in these so tiny little subtle ways. You cannot watch that movie passively and be afraid of it. You have to watch it very carefully, and you have to listen to the language very carefully to be truly afraid of it. And obviously, the ending gave me shivers because it's like just the satanic.
Um,
Maybe it's my Christian upbringing, but like the satanic aspect of it is just it truly like sends a shiver down your spine. It's horrible.
so I think that would be like the scariest movie, like for my grandma as like a church going person. But
Yep.
as someone who like really does like the like idea of Christianity and like Gnostic stuff, that one of the reasons why we talked about um Sun and Steel is because of like that kind of stuff.
Right.
Um, but um it was like accurate. Like the dude, I'm like, this dude's like a Christian, like God-fearing man, but he
Crazy.
suffered from pride.
Mhm.
And then he admits that at the end. That's why like you see him, he's
So bad.
spoiler alert, he's like he looks at the daughter and he's like, dang it, this is it's exactly what I thought. Even though he is wrong, he gets whacked by Black Phillip.
Black Phillip, man.
And then
Where do you
dude,
rank
also
that?
that goat is like the
The best
best
actor ever.
actor, dude. What
Yeah.
no, so the whole time I was watching that with my girlfriend Linnea, and then like the whole time I'm like, dude, I'm like, this is messed up. And she's like, what's that? The kids are just dancing around. I'm like, that's a hymn. I'm like,
Yeah. Yes, it is.
I'm like,
Yes,
he
it
taught
is.
them that song. And like when they're
A
like
goat,
dancing
the
around the house, like
satanic goat.
the goat is like prancing around the house. Like I was like, he loves that song. I was like,
Well,
this is
that movie pulls you in too immediately because of how violent it starts, like with the child abduction, and then
I
that's a
so
real
that
thing
is
too. That's a
I
real
think
thing.
wait, what oh the witch thing?
Yeah, so like that's the folklore is like
Take your baby?
they would steal right, and then oh man, I'm trying. It's been a minute since I haven't seen the film in about 2 years. I saw it for the first time in
It's
2020.
the peekaboo scene, though. That's so scary.
Hold on, no, hold on. I gotta mention this because there's something really important about witch lore that they touch that he hits really early in the film, like the first scene. So like, as soon as the witch has stolen and killed Samuel to use his body to make a flying ointment, like there's something that she turns something into the witch's broom, like it turned like it's the
Well, yeah.
actual.
So what happens?
I'm
What
sorry,
happens is
yeah, remind me.
yeah, she's doing the peekaboo scene or the peekaboo thing with the baby. Boo, like
Mhm.
there you are,
Yeah,
and then does it again. Hands closed for 2 seconds. Up, baby gone. Into the woods, dipping.
she eats the
Next
baby, right?
No, next scene, and I wanted to suspend my belief the whole time. I was like, no, it's not that, because she's just caressing the baby, the naked baby, and like she's naked too, and that scene made me uncomfortable. I was like, this is not okay. Like just the
Well, that's
naked,
ears, man. That's Robert.
right, naked baby with like the naked witch behind, and then she's just like feeling his face, and then the next scene, it's just like viscera chunks, and then she's just like mortar and pestle, like churning butter.
Yeah, but there's something about the where like the witch's broom, like
Yeah, so what she
she
does is
uses the blood to like lube the
so
broom to make it
exactly that.
fly,
She
something like that.
it's hinted that she cuts up the baby, mashes up in the mortar and pestle, and then like just rubs all that like over herself, and then it shows in the scene she's just like rubbing it on the broom. She's
Dude,
just
that
like getting
that
it
is
in.
dude, that realism. Oh man, we should talk about that film. I mean, I love that movie. I told Ashley the first time I saw it, which we saw it in no, we saw it in fall of 2019. This would have been yeah, it would have been Halloween esque era of 2019. We were looking for horror films. I was like, we'll give this a shot. I didn't know anything about Robert Eggers, and I was just like, it had come out a couple years prior, and I kept seeing it. And I was like, you know what, fuck it, we'll watch it. And oh my god, it did not. First of all, is his first three films better than any other person's first three films
Yes,
ever? Like
yes,
he's number
yes.
one, right? Like with
Yep.
a bullet.
He's the best period piece artist. This is not I don't even
I
think
think
it's
I
really
think
that
it's one of
close.
the best horror movies of the 21st century. It's in the mix, and we'll we'll touch on a little bit of
Well,
that.
so it's an absolute shame that I cut it from the list, but I just figured that one, we would talk about it in the future, and two,
Well, you've
that
only
I
seen
was
it
hoping.
once, and it's kind of new to you, right? Didn't you just
Right,
watch
yeah,
it
I
for the first
saw it
time?
like right before I saw Train to Busan.
Yeah, it's Train to Busan is like that's on my list. I haven't seen that, but Errol, dive into your number seven. We got to keep this moving. What's your number seven?
Number seven's number seven. Or sorry,
Seven?
it's seven.
The
Yeah,
film seven?
yeah.
Oh, you consider Seven a horror film? Interesting.
Yeah, because
I didn't even consider.
when I saw it, granted, okay, you can honestly say that that's a psychological thriller, but when I saw that, I was a child and that was a
Yeah,
serial killer.
it's
I
got a
was
lot
like,
of
that is
horror in it. That's for sure.
yeah, I was like, that is terrifying. Like the depicted things. It's one thing. I was like, all right, you got like typical like slasher films. Like it's just like, oh, like knife, ooh, stab, smash, ooh, killed him. I was like, he's just torturing these people. Like to like such a and then the police can't catch him. I'm like, this is the serial killer that everyone's actually scared of. Like when you think of like a oh no, I'm gonna get it's like that's like the monster. Like you get like dude just wants you to be penitent for you. And then, like I said, with like the you put in like the Christian aspect, like I always liked the idea of religion and stuff, but like I never like because I would like went to church when I was younger, but not like all the time, but like I knew of it. So when they put in like the sin aspect, I was like, this shit just hit clicking. I was like, this is kind of. I was
Yeah,
like, he's almost not wrong. He's like
when you
righteous.
say, I guess if I had considered it a horror film, it would be hard to leave it out. It's one of the greatest films ever made.
Well,
Period.
so how
Thrillers
here,
wise, for sure.
right? And here's the thing too. Like the reason I consider it a horror, like it doesn't end nice either.
No, it's the ending is as bad as any ending could get. I mean, it's so good. It's so dark, but it's so good. It's so
And
smartly
so
written.
I saw that movie at like 5 o'clock in the morning, or like
Mm,
4 or 5 in the morning when I like waiting to go to school at like well my mom went to work, and I would just
dark.
that it just my whole day was ruined. I was like, what the?
Dark. Well,
I was,
my dad, I had been watching. So I watched it when I was like 13. Right, I was home alone over a summer afternoon, or something like that. And I
mm-hmm.
was watching it. I'm just like, God damn, this is good. And my dad had like, he had like filtered what I could watch for a while. Then he kind of lifted the floodgates, and I had like called him up, and I was like, dude, how have you not told me about this fucking movie yet? And he was like, oh, he's like, yeah, it's pretty fucked up about the head in the box, right? And I was like, dude, I haven't finished it. God damn it,
You're like
no.
damn,
I didn't finish
wait,
it yet. I'm like
you're
20
like what?
minutes.
What's in the box?
Yeah, I was so pissed off because I was like, he didn't know that he just assumed that I finished it, and he kind of
Mm-hmm.
spoiled it for me. But I was like, God damn it! Now I know what's coming, and it kind of
Gotcha.
spoiled it for me. But it was fine. It still worked. It still worked as a film. But yeah, no, that's a good pick. That's a solid pick. I don't quite consider it a horror film just for my taste, but I can see why someone would. That works. So, give me a quick recap. What do you got? You got 10 Final Destination. What was your nine?
Hills Have Eyes,
Those have
followed by
eyes.
The Thing,
Oh, okay.
and then at number seven, John Doe has the upper hand.
John Doe has the upper hand. What's in the box? Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Okay,
Put the
that's a
gun
solid
down.
start. Okay, my number seven. Okay, my number seven. We'll keep this thing rolling. Pretty easy for me. The rest of the way out. Number seven for me is 1968. George A. Romero, the all-time classic, the start of horror, the beginning of it all. Night of the Living Dead.
Start of the zombie apocalypse.
Yeah, I mean, Night of the Living Dead, the original too, is dude, that movie is still so scary to me. And that's another one that I saw super early in life. Saw it like when I was probably 8 or 9, right in that sweet spot. And I was just like, good Lord, this is so scary. I also felt kind of cool because it was black and white and it was old. So I was like, yeah, I fucking get this. I'm hanging with this.
Mm-hmm.
And I loved it. I still love it to this day. It means a lot to me. It's a very important film because the lead it's important in culture because it's actually the first film to have an African American in a leading role, which is very important, like especially for film. And like it pioneered two things, like that socio cultural thing, and then also like the start of zombie movies, which became a multi-billion-dollar industry.
Right. Yeah, it was like the first thing for zombies. And you know what? It probably started like the trope of like the black dude dying first because everyone saw that like, oh, black dude's a hero. You can die now first
It's crazy though.
because
He
it was the
dies
first one.
last. That's the best.
No, so that's what I'm saying. Like everyone, a
Yeah.
bunch of filmmakers, they see that movie and they're like, yeah, the black guy won this time. But
That,
everyone
but
sees that one movie and
But
then they're like,
Romero always says that, like, I mean, he's talked about the movie. This movie, you could talk about this movie forever. There's so much to it. There's like, um, there's all of this because there's so much socio-political stuff in it. Like,
well,
and they do
so
this
here's
in the sequel in Dawn of the Dead. Dawn of the Dead is like anti-consumerism because it takes place in a mall, and like, there's just so
here's
much.
a here's a fun anecdote for you, and I'll start with a question. Do you prefer zombies or vampires?
Zombies for sure.
So I forgot what it was. Just a poll, and usually people who like zombies are part of like the middle class or lower, like more of a collective, and people who like vampires are consider
Oh,
themselves more like elite and
I
like
can see that.
manipulative.
Well, because like the vampire culture is like Transylvania, it's in like it's a secluded class. Like you know what I mean? Like the vampire trope, vampires weren't really among us, and other than a couple
It's
films,
very like hierarchical. Like they're
right?
like,
Where
oh, I'm better than you. Like
but the
I'm
zombies are
above that, and I'm a
everywhere.
monster. It's the populace. It's just like the problem is the like the masses, but you're part of the mass. Like there is a
Somebody
civil
should make
unrest.
that. Somebody should make like a horror film where like it's all of the zombies are actually like super rich people who are the firsts to go. And it takes place in like a wealthy community. Like nobody's ever made that. All those zombie movies always take place in they take place, but that's because of the social commentary. But like somebody
Well,
should,
yeah, that's like exactly Train to Busan.
yeah, I see, yeah, like the zombies are the blue collar class. They're the
Well,
middle
no, just
class.
the rich people use their means to try to they push people.
Avoid.
Yeah, so instead of like being at the top of their job by pushing people underneath them, they're just like willing to push people underneath them. Like if there's a zombie coming by them too. So some people make it due to friendship, other people make it due to trampling on people. But in the end, like you all end up dying. Like, what do you want to die for?
Okay, well, listen, it's a classic. I think we should actually give that movie some time. That's another one. I mean, all of these
We could, and we should, and we will
we
because it's
definitely
the
will.
first.
Yeah, there's a lot of these that we're gonna get to that we're gonna spend like a full episode on at some point down the road. So, Errol, hit me with your number six. Let's move it along.
Number six is gonna be Jaws.
Oh, you consider Jaws a horror movie? Hey,
Yeah, Jaws is a horror movie, dude.
I
Beaches
I,
were,
I disagree. I disagree. I disagree, and I'll
dude.
explain why.
Nope,
But you tell
nope.
me why it is, and I'll tell you why I think that's
Because beaches were shut down for years because of that. People still scared of the ocean because of Jaws. It
there are
was it was so bad, Jake. You know the statistics. You want to know it's awful, man. More people die every year from vending machines than they do from sharks.
people were avoiding the beach.
But like, so here's the thing, like as like with a vending machine, if you it's like just tilt in there, I can get it. You just shake it a bit. People shook it too far and they'll fall down. More people die from that than like sharks. Um, People were so scared of sharks that they were just hunted like to like a fault. I believe Spielberg said like if he knew like what would have happened, like the fallout from the shark hunting, he wouldn't even have made it. But that's how scared people were. Like I was scared
Yeah,
of the pool at times. It was just
I know.
water. I'm like,
Listen,
you
but for me, it's not like it's for me. Jaws is the quint. It's like the first Spielberg esque action film, action thriller. Like it's action thriller to me, and it does have horror movie aspects to it. Don't get me wrong; it's got some horror. There's it that vein exists in
they're
the
fighting
body
like
of
the ocean
Jaws.
personified.
It is like, of course it is, and like you've got a monster. It's a monster movie for sure. Like you've got like this great white that's
And
like
that's
normally
what like the
large.
same thing with Cujo. Like that's not even unrealistic if you think
Yeah,
about it.
it's of course
You
it's
like
true.
granted,
Listen,
like
the fact
I
that
could die.
you if you're
Mm.
including Jaws, you have to be only including it based on like, okay, this is the sixth most scary film ever. Because if it's on your best horror films of all time, that motherfucker belongs in like the top two because it's literally one of the greatest films of all time. I mean,
Well, no, that's why I'm
it's one of
putting
the
it
best
six.
films of
Just
all time.
so here's the thing, it's another one of those. I'll accept the cultural impact that it shut down beaches and stuff, but it's another one of those things where like I'm like I swim by the shore like a shark attack. If I dude, did you okay? Not to veer off, but did you see that video of the recent shark attack? It was like some like Russian guy. They
I
were on
didn't, but
a.
that sounds terrible.
It's just as horrifying as you think. The guy. Oh my God. It's like I don't okay, anyone listening, I don't recommend looking it up, but there is a shark attack video of some guy getting killed by a shark. He screams out for his father in
Oh
Russian,
god.
and there's nothing anyone can do. There is a point, it's a tiger shark. There's a point where you see him like he is upright, and then he like jerks to the left, jerks to the right, legs up. Like it's just boom, boom. inverted and then like just like gone. And I'm like, oh, so like it's a because I was like, oh, shark attack video. And then I clicked on it and then there's like blood in the water. And I'm like, oh, it's this shark attack video. I was like, I don't know what I expected to see there. It's terrifying.
Bro, I don't know if I want to watch it. I don't think I
Don't look.
want.
I'm telling you, man. If so, here's the thing: you're gonna be, oh, should I watch this shark attack video? Then you're gonna watch it, and you're gonna be like, what did I expect? I made the mistake,
Oh, yeah, I'm not gonna watch it. It's too scary.
and it's so sad because they're just on vacation, and the guy's like screaming towards his dad. He's like, "Dad, help!" And like his dad's like, what do you do? Jump in there, like is salt water. You get bit, and there's salt water. It stings, but that's the least of your worries because I don't. It's Jaws number 6, dude.
All right, that's a solid number six. All right, let's move into the next one. My number six. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Okay. It is now we're getting into the nitty gritty for me because now we're getting into like films that changed cinema and changed my life and all that. And I actually did a little switcheroo on this one because on my actual physical list it's a different film, but I'm moving the film that it's getting swapped with. We're going to talk about next. Number six for me is 1979. We're going to 1979. We're going to Middle America. We're going to Haddonfield. I'm sorry, 1978. We're talking Halloween, bro. John Carpenter's original Halloween. I mean, yeah, like come on, one of the most important horror films of all time. It's a fucking classic. The acting sucks. It's the first example of a movie that like this fucking sucks in some serious ways, and it's got some problems, but
They had a
it's
William
so
Shatner
fucking
mask
good.
inverted.
The what?
They had a William Shatner mask inverted, painted white for the. We need a prop. Just do
No, I don't
this.
think that's true. I always heard that they found the mask in like some shop, like I know that was. I think what you're saying was like rumored, but I actually think that the mask was like a random mask, or no, it wasn't inverted. It was a Michael. It was a William Shatner mask, but it was like unfinished, and they happened to just. It's like a one of one, right? The one in the film is
Hmm.
is literally like a one of one. It's like the first of its kind, and then they ended up like it was
They
remade.
scrapped it, but they used it for. They're like, this is kind of spooky.
Yeah, I think you're right about the William Shatner aspect, but I think that it was history of the mask in the documentary Halloween Unmasked 2000. It is revealed that Michael almost had an entirely different face. The first mask considered was an Emmett Kelly clown mask that the crew had put frizzy red hair on. Ultimately, it was decided the mask did not have the creepy and unsettling atmosphere they were looking for with Michael. The second mask considered was a modified James T. Kirk mask that had eyes opened up and the skin painted white. After modification, this mask captured the blank and emotionless look they wanted. So it is like it's the white face, man. It's like just the white, emotionless, eyebrow, like hairless face. It's terrifying. It works time and time again. They've remade this movie. It's been remade. It's been sequeled. It's been touched upon 50 times or more. It's one of the most important films to ever be introduced to cinema, and it's a solid number six. It's number six feels weird because it is so iconic, but um, you'll understand my list as we move on a little bit.
I bet Michael Myers isn't beating Jaws.
I mean, are we doing a monsters fight here? Because if we're doing monsters fight, like fuck you, I choose the
You're
thing.
looking.
Man. I'll just
I
take the
left.
thing. This the thing will
Okay,
just
I love. Yeah, but I left Godzilla off the list.
bro. The thing will absorb the existence of Godzilla and kill
No, I
himself.
wouldn't. He'd be like, hit him with nuclear hellfire.
This isn't a monsters list. It's a films list. We're talking scariest movies. Listen, I'm not holding it against you. Jaws is a great film. I just don't. I personally don't consider it a horror film. Errol, hit me with your number five. Go for it. Not the Mambo number five. Not like that. Because I'll divorce your ass
Number
from this
number
podcast.
five is also someone I would put up against Michael Myers in the monster fight. My
Hit.
boy Jason. We're looking at Friday the 13th.
Oh,
So
hit
I
me.
will say that, but Friday the 13th easily could have been Halloween. It easily could have been Nightmare on Elm Street. It easily could have been Hellraiser if that is the thing that I saw at the time that I saw it.
Yeah.
But it wasn't. So,
You're talking number
Jay,
one, so where it's not even actually Jason.
huh?
You're talking Friday the 13th number one, where the killer is not actually Jason.
No, so Friday the 13th number one is his mom, but
Right.
like just I'm so it's the number five's a cop out. I'm talking the whole like just
Oh, so you're doing the
slasher
whole
series. Like,
series. We'll just put it.
yeah,
I get that. No, I respect that. That's true because
yeah.
it is complicated because like the first film kind of bleeds into the second
It's just
film.
his mom, and then he dies. But here's the
Oh,
thing, dude. Summer camps,
mm-hmm.
uh, one of those other things too. Like I never went to summer camp, but I didn't want to go to one. I wasn't excited. I was like, nah, you can miss me with that. Um, but yeah, another thing, just a dude who is like made fun of, and then he gets his revenge, but then he's a bad guy for it, kind of an asshole, like just
Well, what's
taking on a
crazy?
bunch of.
It's not even that he gets made fun of. He just gets neglected. Like he just
He gets
drowns
straight
because
up killed,
well, yeah,
murdered. Yeah,
basically, he drowns because the campsite people, like the authorities, the lifeguards, and all that, were just ignoring him because they were too busy having that sex. They were doing that dirt, that
so like
knocking
imagine that
boots.
if you just really look at Jason like a PSA, like if he saw someone like there's one camp person who's actually like a good person, like, no, I can't do that, get off of me, Jeremy, I gotta. They're just looking at the kids like at being a lifeguard, and like Jason like sees him just looking, and then he's like, nah, she's really there, like just that's all we need, and then like slurks off, and then
Well, it's
someone
like
else is just beating
well,
cheeks, and
it's
you
a
get
trope in
killed.
like all of these horror movies. Like all these horror movies, like especially Halloween. Like there was like a thing about like if the characters like initiate if they have sex like underage or whatever, not like illegally, but like if they're like high schoolers and they're having sex, like they die. Like that's like a trope in all horror movies. Like
Right.
the promiscuity of the like victims is like is guarantees their death, and like that starts with that movie. That bro, I think the first Friday the 13th, even with Jason's mom Betsy Palmer who plays her, like that movie's fucking scary, man. Like it's good. It's really good. I watched it last year for the first time since I was a kid, and that shit really held up. I was like, first of all, every time somebody's getting some nookie, they're getting killed like every fucking time.
Right.
Which I thought
Stabbing
was
through the bed.
yeah, there's like double stabbing going on, and it's not good. But it's not good in production terms, but like it works as a horror movie, and it. I thought like the music, there's like all these homages, obviously, to films like Psycho and all that. So like it works. It's still scary to this day, and I think it's a solid number five. Good
And
pick.
then I think it's cool too.
You think it's cool?
Yeah, I think it's
Mm.
cooler than like
Oh, like you
Halloween
think
and
that
Elm
like
Street and
the
stuff. Yeah.
yeah, no, it is as a concept. Just yeah, like
Yeah.
you got the murderous mother, and she passed, and then like he's just out for vengeance, and he
Like
becomes
so
supernatural inexplicably for some reason though. I don't know.
yeah, like it was like some kind of he drowned, so he's undead, and then he comes up every like Friday the 13th or something. So that was like more believable to me than like uh Michael Myers like weird voodoo thing. I'm like, you just hit him with a shotgun and he's fine, but
Yeah,
you hit
but
Jason with a shotgun,
they
like
forget about all that stuff though. Like this is the problem with all these horror movies is they run into all these like creative diversions where like
well, yeah,
people.
we say that, and then you ask hey, why is the hotel haunted in The Shining? Oh,
Oh,
it's
he's got an
an
answer.
Indian burial ground.
it
Like, so it just happens to work, but still, it's like almost
works.
just as
It
much of a
works when it
bullshit
works.
reason.
Right. It
Right?
works
Yeah,
when
exactly.
it's
Like
convenient.
it's just as much as a like bullshit reason as like the hatred of his mother like kept him alive to kill all the people having sex, or like he was part of a cult, and then they summoned him so he can never die, and then all he wants is blood,
Right.
and he wears
Yeah, it's all
William
that stuff has
Shatner's
to be
face.
suspended in disbelief. Like you just have to the disbelief
That's
has to be like an important component to like actually buying into horror movies. It's just
that's exactly why I put it at number five, teetering on it. That's so five. I want to like put it almost on the list as like a what's those graphs, like the median where like the low end is like low, and then it goes up high a little bit, and then it goes back down,
oh right. Yeah.
or
Like
like the
just
median list where
just
like
to represent like where it's at or how it
yeah.
kind of
So
evolves.
I put this movie or the Friday the 13th series like really high, and I do think of that as like true like horror, like
At
especially
its
like
peak,
growing
it's
up.
very good, and I think the first one is. I still do. I contend that the first one is the best. I've seen a chunk of them. I can't say I've seen them all, but the ones I've seen, um, the first one's definitely the best. I'm gonna let me close out our the back nine, and then we can start diving into our top five. Well, our top. We'll dive into the 4 through 1. So my number 5, and we can move right on past this once again. My number 5 is The Thing. The Thing is, it's very clearly a horror film. It is. The more that movie has like sat with me, and I love that we talked about it. If people are interested, please jump back to our pilot episode. It is genuinely one of my all-time favorite movies. It's Errol's one of his all-time favorite movies. We talked about it pretty endlessly. We talked about it for like 3.5 hours. We might even revisit and talk about it again. It's so good, dude. It's so good. I just can't even. I can't imagine. I don't. I just. There's something about that movie I just truly love. There's something very like. It just speaks to me. I don't know what it is. There's just something about it. It moves at a perfect pace. It's scary when it needs to be scary, violent when it needs to be violent. It's awesome. It's just awesome. And by the way, Kurt Russell's the fucking man. And that's the end of the discussion. So, number 5 for me, The Thing. That's my 5th favorite horror movie of all time. I mean, the only I probably would have it even higher if I could. But Errol, let's move into number 4. What's your number 4? Hit me with it.
28 weeks later.
Oh, 20 weeks later.
Yeah.
Really? Okay.
Starts off with a scene. First time you see zombies sprinting, I'm like, oh, game over. And then that's another one of the movies, just like The Mist, where it shows you not all the time the zombies aren't always the worst people. This
So it's
dude,
not
like,
28 days later. It's you got
the weeks.
okay. All right.
Yeah,
Jesus. It
weeks.
is vicious, man. It is vicious. I
So
actually don't like the second half of the film, personally, but I
so
haven't seen
here's
it
the
in
thing.
cinemas.
Here's the thing. You got the first like initial 3 minutes where it's just fire and brimstone. Be like, oh my god, these zombies are so shitty. This is the worst thing I've ever seen. And then the guy just like abandons his like wife and kids, and then you're like, all right, this dude's shittier than the zombies. And then like he finds them again. Then he's like, oh, I just want to kiss her. And then I'm like, dude, I'm like, you're a piece of garbage. And
Yeah.
then like, so he's literally worse than the zombies like the whole time. I'm like, what? I'm like, he's irredeemable, and then he causes like the whole thing. But like,
Old fucking Robert Carlyle, man. He's
dude, if I always said it every time, like half joking, I was like, if I look out the window and I see if I see a rabid person, like 6 of them, just like head shaking, sprinting full speed, I'm not fighting that fight, man. I
just
don't have that
yeah.
stamina. I know you. I'm gonna. I don't know. I'm gonna do something drastic, but it's not gonna be fighting them with a
I
baseball
really
bat.
well, I really respect that pick because it really it's I think it's pretty underrated. And I like I said, I think the first like quarter of that movie is fucking vicious and great. Truly great. Like it's elite. It's among like the best like zombie movies ever made. But for me it's just like as a complete film, I it's just it doesn't work in full. I think 28 Days Later is like 10 times the film. I really do. But if we were comparing first quarter of each film against one another, they're neck and neck. And even 28 Days Later actually has some pitfalls along the way. But I love both those films. I think they actually went on to make other ones too, didn't they? Are there sequels
28
beyond?
months later, 28 years later,
No, they
28
didn't. They didn't.
decades later,
Let's hope they don't do that. I mean,
28 centuries later,
all
28
right. Well,
millennia.
let me shift things back. We're gonna keep things moving. My number 4. This one's pretty easy to. Once again, another one we're gonna have to eventually talk about in full, and that's The Exorcist, the original 1973. Boom, number 4 for me. I mean, what do you even say? Like, what can you briefly say about the fucking one of the most um
I'll tell you. I'll tell
impactful.
you.
It's impactful, is right. That's the right word, isn't it? Like how
I mean,
miscarriages and vomiting, and people couldn't even handle this film when it came out. It was
yes,
so
and it was
vicious and
very. Oh
nasty.
yeah, people went out like so. I said, I was like, oh, The Shining seems like it's haunted or possessed. People like legit thought that about this movie. Like they were like, people left the movie theater
Well, I think
crying,
there
and
was
I
a lot
think
of. I think there was a lot of like the country was a little bit more religious then, and when
right,
you've got a child on camera masturbating with a crucifix. I mean,
right, and saying like your
it's
mother
tough.
sucks cocks in hell.
Yeah, there's some tough. Yeah, it's like, but like as a film, has anything ever been more like another one that's just it's so culturally like just it's a demolition of like of values and of like expectations. Like it's just an
Right.
absolute fucking demolition of those things. Like you can't.
Wasn't scary for me.
No, really, it wasn't.
No, dude, because I've
Oh,
just
okay. They got spoofed too much. Maybe I know that happens.
no, like, because I saw it and I'm like, why is everyone beating around the bush? I was like, I would just shoot that kid.
No,
I
oh
was like,
yeah, we talked about this,
I was like, burn the house down.
bro. That's your daughter, bro.
Then the devil wins. Not when I saw it. I was a child. I was like, I'll shoot my sister in the face. I was like, you better stop talking to her. The holy water didn't work. The squirt gun's not working. I got something.
Yeah, there is
Oh,
something like
can't believe you killed your sister.
there's something a
No,
little comical about a couple of scenes. Like, well, Scary Movie two, the Scary Movie series, like, kind of ruined that. We were just watching Scream, and I'm just like, God damn, if they didn't do this like shot for shot, like spoof, like, damn it, like I can't find this like not a little bit funny. I can't buy in
right.
as I'd like to, but all right, hit me with your next one, Errol. Your number three horror film of all time.
Silence of the Lambs.
Oh, you son of a bitch! You beat me to the punch. No, you're absolutely right. Tell me what you think about it.
Spooky because I think it's a. I like it. If you
Too
haven't
real,
noticed,
bro.
my trend is the if it's a little real, if it's a little close to home, I'm like, I don't really like that. Because so
Yeah, that
here's the
was
thing: a
way
lot
too
of
real.
movies, a lot of like the number five stuff that I was talking about, like the true like horror slasher stuff, it's
Yeah.
just like campy kind of nonsense. The
Mhm.
thing is, like, I'm not gonna say, oh, Silence of the Lambs is like the closest one to real life, but like a lot of the times, if you're like a true serial killer, like you tend to be like smarter. Like you tend if you it takes a certain knowledge to like get away with stuff, or it takes like so it takes a certain knowledge to get away with stuff for a long period of time. Um, so like a lot of the times, like the people who are orchestrating this stuff, if they're not just, if I'm being real, truck driver, um, it's like someone who is like methodical in what they're doing. And this is the
Manipulative.
first,
This is the definition of
right,
being like a sociopath. Like
right,
sociopathy and psychopathy
exactly.
go hand in hand, and like they're always attached to IQ, and like that's what makes Hannibal Lecter like a terrifying. Let me ask you this though, before we move on. Like, have you ever seen Manhunter?
No,
Manhunter. Okay, so Manhunter is the Michael Mann film from which is in some ways like a prequel to the Silence of the Lamb with a different actor playing. It's actually Brian Cox playing the original Hannibal Lecter, and it is a fucking masterpiece. It is. It just got overlooked because maybe the culture wasn't ready for it. It's definitely a little bit lower budget, and it wasn't as like maybe it wasn't marketed as well. And it's definitely not a better film, but it is a great film. And Brian Cox plays Hannibal Lecter really effectively too. And in the same vein, it's like you're like matching psychopathy with like this like high IQ and competency and charm, right? Like he's fucking charming.
yeah, that's like the worst part about it. Like this dude's like disgusting. He's like telling
No,
you that he's eating people, but he's like, I'm doing it over like a nice like row of fava beans, like in a nice like. You're like, you're like, why are you weird?
isn't
Like,
there something about that film too that like, and I'd love to talk about this. This will be another one that would like a lot of these we're gonna eventually circle to, but like, man, this is one of the darkest films ever made.
I read in some
So dark.
tabloid that I read in some tabloid that Martha Stewart broke up with him because she couldn't like not see
Oh yeah, I
like
didn't even
the.
know that they were a thing, but yeah, I could
I think so.
understand
It
that.
is one of them. It is some Good Housekeeping cooking channel lady.
Bro, his fucking like something about his eyes too. He's like wearing a little makeup around his eyes. It seems like, or his eyes are like sunken back into his skull. That's just the right way to make it seem like something's wrong with him. And like, it's just one of the great performances of all time. And Jodie
It's
Foster's
almost
great.
like, yeah, it's almost like, how can you like portray that so like genuine? Like, you're talking about Eve, like it's one hand you want to be like good actor, then you're like, wait a second, you a method actor or something? Like, what's going on here? Like, how did you?
Yeah, no, that's a great number three. Okay, let me hit you with my I'll hit you with my number three. My number three is the okay, yeah, like we got to get into this just a little bit, and it would be blasphemous. I'm not gonna sit here and tell you that like this is probably my hipster pick in some ways, but it's definitely actually not. And because it would be truly blasphemous for us to go through a top 10 horror movie list and not one of us include 1960 Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho. Has to be on the list.
My
Yeah.
hipster pick would have been The Birds.
Bro, this movie's way better than the birds. I like the birds. The birds loses me because it's like it's a little too melodramatic in moments. It's great, but don't
I
get
would
me
have just
wrong.
shut the door.
Not shitting. I'm not shitting on the birds. Love the birds. It's actually like I think it's officially like 60 years old this year or something like that. But great film. But we're talking Psycho because Psycho is so effective. It is one of the first. It's one of the oldest, most entertaining films you'll ever see. Like that movie starts, the music gets you, you're in all the way. It's like it's a pioneer of like all these different genres. It's probably considered maybe the first true horror film, like in the sense that like it kind of constructed the genre. Like the way it's set up, it's a little bit noir. It's like a mystery, and then like, but it has you've got a monster, you've got a reveal, you've got a twist ending, you've got like initial unexpected violence in a place where a woman is vulnerable, like in the shower scene. I mean, what more?
Right, and that's stoked fears for everyone.
Of
Like now,
course,
like that's
right.
everyone feels vulnerable in the shower for a movie that a lot of people haven't even seen.
Right, and the coolest thing about and this is like a very well known fact in the world of in the world of horror, but like Janet Leigh, who is the woman who gets stabbed and killed in the shower, is the mother of Jamie Lee Curtis, who is Laurie Strode in Halloween. So like you've got two of the two greatest slasher films ever made, and it's mother and daughter in the leading roles. So like, I mean,
It's in their blood.
it just is. It works so great. It works so great. I was actually watching recently. They did the Halloween H2O or whatever. It was like one of those sequels. I think it was the first one that Jamie Lee Curtis was in since the second Halloween. And they actually wrote a scene in the film where her and Janet Leigh, her mother, would interact. So they just like wrote it, and they're chit chatting. They're not related in the film. It's very like it's a worthless scene. This does nothing for the film, but like it was just cool.
Something for them though.
Yeah, it was cool. No, it was cool. I liked it because they interact for a second, and then Janet Leigh walks away from Jamie Lee Curtis, and she gets in a car. She gets in a really old Cadillac, and it's the Cadillac from Psycho, and you hear very subtly in the score. It goes from like the Halloween spooky score. You sort of hear you slightly, very marginally hear the score shift, the musical score shift into the Psycho score, where it's like na, 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 na,
Mm,
like it just
yeah.
very subtly just shifts right into it. You barely notice it, but they're paying homage to Psycho in that moment, and it's really cool to see that. Like, and that was like 25 years ago that film came out, but like it's cool that like this film is so baked in to the genre of horror. Has to be on one of our lists. Glad to include it on mine. Definitely one of my favorites too, because um, it paved the way, and I saw it pretty young. I was happy to see it pretty young. It was like I felt pretty cool when I was like 10, and I watched Psycho, and I was like, yeah, I can hang with this movie. But like little did I know it's like one of the most entertaining, watchable, old films ever. So great film, amazing. Lot to say about it. So that's my number three. Errol, hit me with your number two. Go for it.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
The Ridge.
The
Nice,
Ridge.
nice, nice. Good pick. Good pick. Texas Chainsaw Night, the original too, right? 1974.
Oh yeah, you loosely base anything off a true story, and I'm horrified.
Uh-huh. And that movie will do it. I actually just watched that again for the first time in a few years, and
So,
pretty terrifying.
like how you said, like like Michael Myers mask, like it's kind of unsettling. This dude's just like wearing someone's boyfriend's face. Well,
Yep, yep.
that's about you.
He
You get
skins him.
you win.
Yeah,
You
it's
got
all.
you got me. If I look over Jake and we're like, oh, I got knocked out. Oh, what? I'm on a hook, and then he's wearing your face. I'm like, okay, game over. I'm like, just chainsaw me, dude. Oh, it's a chainsaw. Okay, cool.
Yeah, but
Like
like
that's
he doesn't
just
even do that. Like, bro, I don't want to be on no freaking poultry hook. Like
that's what I'm saying.
that's like that death is so fucking cringy where he like literally sets her down, picks her up, sets her down on a poultry hook where they like drain chickens and poultry and like hang them
Right, just
upside
wanted
down.
to keep her for livestock,
Just sit right there and just drain out for me, will you? Like it is that movie's vicious. And
dude.
obviously
I
he's based on Ed Gein, who's a real serial killer. Like
Right. I
shit.
told myself I was like, if I'm ever in a situation like that, you fight. You get killed before you get thrown on the hook. I was like, you let them hit. You get hit with a mallet. You get hit with the chainsaw. You don't get. You don't get barbed.
Well, that scene with the fucking mallet, bro, is just awful, right? Like
Hmm.
that's about as terrifying as any because it's so real. Like he and it's a great trailer too. I think that was a part of the trailer. Not that he hits him with the mallet, but when he slams the door, like he just rips that door shut, and it's like, oh shit, we're in business now. And he hits him with the mallet, and then he drops, and he's like fucking truly twitching, like it's a real twitch. Like
Hmm.
he's just on. It looks very real. It's very shocking. I mean, I can't imagine. I guess by the way, I've done a lot of research on this film, and like um, apparently this production of this film was horrible. Like they were tortured by Toby Hooper. Like this was a one of the it's one of the worst like production stories you'll ever read about. Like these poor actors went through fucking hell to get this movie made, and then they weren't even paid for like years and years after. Uh, it's just a bad deal. Just a bad deal. Glad the movie exists. Seems like everybody involved really was traumatized by having had to make it, and but the film itself is just amazing. It's an amazing piece of like American art that is evil and rotten to the core. Doesn't the movie kind of look like it stinks too? You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
no,
Like
it does. It
it just
smells
emits a
bad, and I think,
smell.
I think, I think that movie is one of the reasons. Like it's a, it's not like the final nail in the coffin, but it's definitely like a solid like. It's almost like the. It's not like a nail in the coffin, but it's almost like the coffin itself for like how some people think about like the South and Texas.
All right.
Like like oh there's not everyone's like that, but like if you're gonna find something crazy, chainsaw person, like
Yeah, and this was played out like a million times over too, like with like between Cabin Fever and like Wrong Turn and like even Deliverance in a little way, in a little ways, which was before this, but like just the fear of like the deep woods of the South, like what the fuck is wrong? Like there's inbreeding and there's like very extreme beliefs and there's isolation and all like social isolation and all this like all these aspects of like this. I really love what we've done here with these two lists too, because like I'm also noticing as I'm looking at them that like our lists are very different. Like they're definitely not quite the same. Like we definitely have different tastes.
I
Um,
think the only reason I'm like scared of like the South stuff or like the Texas chainsaw thing is like, where are you from, boy? Oh, New York. Oh, you from the city? One of them city slickers? Like, no,
yeah,
no, sir.
they get the wrong
No,
idea
nope. You
about
from the
us New
city, boy?
Yorkers. This is definitely not from the city, bro. That is the difference. And not to say that we're like,
Doesn't matter. You're gonna get Texas chainsawed.
yeah, don't judge me. Come on, I've been on a farm or two. God damn it. All right, let me hit you with my. Well, we can skip my number two in a lot of ways. We're not skip it, but we've already hit it. My number two
We can
is
stay.
Silence of the Lambs. Yeah, my number two is
We can
Silence of
stay
the Lambs.
silent on it.
Yeah, we can. That's right, Silence of the Lambs. We've spoken our piece on that one. Which just an amazing piece of horror movie magic and won Best Picture, all the awards. The stories behind it are crazy. So, but we'll shift past that because we've already kind of touched on it. Errol, give me your number one. What is it? Number one horror film of all time. Let's actually do a little countdown. Let's run yours. We'll run your list down and then you can introduce number one. Your number 10 is Final Destination. Number nine, Hills Have Eyes. Number eight, The Thing. Number seven is Seven. Number six is Jaws. Number five, Friday the 13th. Number four, 28 Weeks Later. Number three, The Silence of the Lambs. Number two, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And your number one all time horror film out of your pocket. Go for it. What's it?
Scariest movie I've ever seen. The Fourth Kind.
The Fourth Kind.
That movie.
Bro,
PG-13.
I'm gonna be honest with you. Don't know what it is. Never heard of it.
Okay,
Oh, I
I'll tell you.
kind of heard the name, but you've got my interest. Okay, tell me about it.
It's a thriller involving an ongoing unsolved mystery in Alaska, where one town has seen an extraordinary number of unexpected disappearances during the last 40 years, and there are accusations of a federal cover-up, but it's about aliens.
Okay,
So
okay,
based off of a Nome, Alaska, only accessible by like airplane for the most part, and there's just like a bunch of people who are like having issues. This one girl, so a bunch of people are just plagued with like nightmares and stuff. This one guy, he just, uh, they're having terrible nightmares. They keep seeing an owl, and they have like a psychiatrist that comes in, and like they like put the guy under like REM sleep or whatever, and like doing like a psychiatrist thing. He's like, oh, I see the owl, it's there, and he starts like freaking out and like shaking. Then he starts like, I don't know if it's like him or something, like one of the dudes like starts like speaking in Sumerian,
Oh my god.
which is like the most ancient language, and it's just like I am God. And then uh there's like another thing, like this girl gets like her daughter abducted, is like what she's saying, and then the government's like, where's your daughter? And then she's like, I'm telling you guys, like my daughter was taken, like it was. And then like, you guys won't believe me. And then they're like doing this one thing, she's like doing the REM sleep thing, and then like something's like speaking through her or whatever. I haven't seen it in a long time, but
See, I'm reading
it's like,
here that it's like it's actually like very much like it tried to be like a pseudo documentary and a reenactment of like real shit.
yes,
And
yes.
that's
So
scary as shit, dude. That's terrifying.
if you ask me, I think it's definitely like they took some they took a little
Creative
they took some,
liberty.
yes, I would like to hope so, but like
Mhm.
they film it like you said, a pseudo documentary where it's
Okay.
like interviews like with like the person, quote unquote, and then like the other stuff. And so I'm like, it's just a compelling story, and then it's just terrifying because, like I said, like the most realistic thing, like I believe in aliens. Like I was like, it's not realist or unrealistic to think that there's something else out there. And when I was like, I saw it like when it first came out, so I was like relatively younger, and the owls, like how an owl looks, it's just like a white face with like the orb thing. It's just the alien face.
Oh, Jesus.
Like
Okay.
it was just they would see owls, and it's just an alien looking through their window. I'm like, get the fuck out of here. I'm like,
I
I
might
gotta
have to
stop
pee.
watching
Okay,
this.
you got my attention. I'll give it a go. I'll give it a go. I'm gonna find it on like my movie app. And I mean, listen, if you're plugging it into your number one slot, I gotta see it now. You've convinced me. I'll watch it. I'll watch it soon. I'll watch it soon. You definitely threw me the curveball. I was not expecting that, but I can see why, because like the thing you mentioned earlier about it, about films like being too real, and that being like your kind of your bar. This is about as real as it gets, because it looks like they Jovic informs the audience this entire movie is actually real, that she will be playing a character based on a real person. Holy fuck! Like, they are not playing around with this movie. They're for real about it. Okay, okay, you got my attention. I'm in. And you know what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna watch it in the next week. And looks like we lost you again. We lost your audio. So um, we're gonna take a quick break, and we'll see if we can get Erroll back with the we got some more technical difficulties. Looks like we lost his internet. So that being the case, we'll introduce my number one pick, my number one horror film of all time. After this short break, we'll be right back with you guys. Okay, folks, thanks for hanging with us. I'm just going to dive right in. We're having a few technical difficulties with the audio, so for that sake, just to move things along, I'm going to jump into my number one. It's real easy. It's real simple. It is 1980s Stanley Kubrick's absolute masterpiece, The Shining. That's my number one pick. It's one of the greatest films of all time, and this is a perfect opportunity. We'll just double announce it. I know we announced it in the first half of the podcast, but we're going to talk about The Shining in 2 weeks' time. We're going to do a full film breakdown for The Shining for Halloween
2 weeks
this year.
shine.
2 weeks shine. We're going to hit in all the big tidbits about it, the production stories, the theories, the everything. We're going to do the whole thing. I know it's been hammered to death. Everybody who's done a podcast or done a documentary or done a piece on The Shining has talked of everything about the film. There's not a world to add to it, but we're going to still hit it as a part of our library because it is just such an important film and it's such a masterful piece of filmmaking from Stanley Kubrick. It's my personal favorite horror film of all time, bar none. And I'm looking forward to talking about it. So let's review our lists. Erroll, you had number 10, Final Destination. Number 9, The Hills Have Eyes. Number 8, The Thing. Number 7, Seven. Number 6, Jaws. Number 5, Friday the 13th. Number 4, 28 Weeks Later. Number 3, The Silence of the Lambs. Number 2, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And number 1, The Fourth Kind. My top 10 looks like this. Number 10, A Nightmare on Elm Street. Number 9, The Evil Dead. Number 8, The Witch. Number 7, Night of the Living Dead. Number 6, Halloween. Number 5, The Thing. Number 4, The Exorcist. Number 3, Psycho. Number 2, The Silence of the Lambs. And number 1, The Shining. Pretty solid list, both coming in hot. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Enjoyed the show. Enjoyed the list breakdown, the horror talk. We went on at length. Errol, have you got any final closing notes if you're still with me?
Honorable mentions. I'll sprint through them. Stuff I
Hey,
haven't mentioned. Godzilla, at least the first one. A Quiet Place almost made my list.
I thought about that because that is a great film, and it
Yep.
is a horror movie. I
Yep.
agree with you there. That's a good pick. That's a good honorable mention for sure.
We talked about The Lighthouse. I would put that one like almost not in horror.
It's too.
Um,
I think it's too wishy washy on the
yep.
genre. There's too much
Yeah.
other stuff going on. I'm with you.
American Werewolf in London transformation scene. That's
Just the
was
scene
wild.
alone. I've actually
Yeah,
never
just the
seen the
scene.
film. It's on my queue. I've never seen the film. It's a tragedy. I've never seen it.
I'll throw King Kong with the Godzilla and stuff that was scary to me that shouldn't have been scary. I have a little list for that too. It's a short list. Coneheads.
Yeah, I can see that.
Terrified of that as a child.
Weird
I was like,
body
how come
stuff going
everyone's
on.
just yeah, it's like how come everyone's just acting like they're normal? I was like, they're clearly aliens.
Yeah, that's a good one. Okay.
And then I saw Train Spotting too young.
Jesus
That
Christ.
movie scared the fucking shit out of me.
Bro, the dead. Bro, that dead. Oh my god, that movie is a fucking ride. I showed that to Ashley. I forced her to close her eyes for the dead baby scene. Like, no, because she's like she can't.
Right.
She's just so like she's
Dude.
mother of we got to no, you can't. And I did too. I saw Requiem for a Dream too young. I saw Train Spotting too young. Like I saw The Shining too
Wait.
young.
I'm I think I'm thinking of Requiem for a Dream.
Oh well, I mean either way, they're both heroin movies and they're both fucking.
Yeah, it's the one. It's the Requiem for a Dream. Yeah, that's the one. Either. Well, yeah, no, it's like you said.
They're
It's
both
both.
bad.
I saw. For some reason, I saw like it. It was a fun time.
Yeah, it's rough. I've got a couple honorable mentions I'll hit too on the way out. Movies that I definitely considered as classic horror films that should probably be on the list, but I just I couldn't swap them out for anything. The Omen is amazing. Way better than I remembered it. The original Omen. Hereditary, I mentioned, was kind of it was half. I think with some time, that one's going to wind up on a top. I need to see it again, and it's got to have a little bit of time in the ether.
You didn't mention Get Out. You loved it.
No, because for some reason that movie doesn't feel like a horror film to me. It feels like
Because you're not black.
yeah.
Just kidding.
I mean, I honestly think that if it should feel more like a horror movie to white people than black people. But
I don't know. I haven't seen it, so
it's so good, dude. It's more than a horror film to me. It once again, it's one of those that's like, okay, there are horrifying moments in it, but I think what it's aiming to do is not to horrify, but to like entertain and scare you a little bit, but also like entertain and make you think. A lot of that stuff going on. So I did omit Get Out as a horror film, but it would, if you forced me to call it a horror film, it would have been in this list because it is that good. Amityville
Fair enough.
Horror, the original, has to be considered. I mean, it's a perfect honorable mention because it's not a great film, but it's a classic horror, and the film that I feel bad about not including because I actually do think it's like a very important film and it spawned an entire genre of horror movies, and that's the Blair Witch Project. So
Right. Like the first person.
yeah, it's the found footage stuff is like a huge thing now, and it's a whole new genre. But okay, with that, that's our list. Those are our honorable mentions. Those are that's the podcast. That's it. I think we're good to roll. I do want to mention coming up, forthcoming on the podcast, we are going to be talking. Errol and I are going to go see. I'm going to go see it this week. Hopefully, Errol, you get a chance to as well, so we can talk about it this weekend. Next up, we're doing a special preview show on Killers of the Flower Moon, Martin Scorsese's next film. Oh, by the way, he did announce that he's going to do one more.
One more, right?
It sounds interesting too. It's like a survivalist thing. It kind of I got a couple of Silence vibes from it a little bit just reading about the topic, but we can talk about that on the preview show coming next week. Killers of the Flower Moon. We're gonna go see it, and then we're gonna jump on the pod and talk about it briefly. Not a full film breakdown, but we're gonna just give our initial thoughts on the film because it's an important film, and we're gonna get our eyes on it hopefully this week. I know I'm going Thursday. Errol, when are you going to see it? Thursday or Friday?
Yeah, likely Friday.
Yeah, so we'll be back next week with a preview show on that, and then after that's out, look out for The Shining because we're going to be doing that to close out the month of October. It's been a good month for podcasts. We appreciate you guys jumping in on and listening to us ramble on about horror. It's a great month for it. If you haven't got a chance to watch some horror movies, make sure you do. It's just that time of year to dive into that stuff. That stuff's so much fun, and it's such a cottage industry of like great entertainment. So hope you guys are enjoying your Halloween. Have a happy Halloween if we don't hear from you in the next couple weeks. You know where to find us, youtube.com, Peripheral Views Podcast. Check us out on X. We're going to be posting some stuff along the way, especially regarding Killers of the Flower Moon and The Shining and this pod at Peripheral View 123. Check us out on soundcloud.com/Peripheral Views 123 for any streaming for the content we've dropped, including this pod. Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Subscribe, rate, and review, please, if you could. And like I said, we've got a bunch of episodes. We've got a nice little library growing. We just did Silence a couple weeks ago. We did Yukio Mishima, and then we did a standalone, just kind of almost a project episode on cultural hyper sexualization. We talked about that topic a little bit, and just to keep our thing, keep us sharp, keep us talking about things that we find important as well. So good little library of diverse topics and content to dive into. So please feel free to go back and check that stuff out. We really appreciate the listenership. Any support you guys can give us is greatly appreciated. Pass the word along. We are looking to expand on the pod in terms of our exposure. But like I said, just we appreciate any listenership we've acquired so far, and just hang with us because we're going to keep expanding and talking about as much as we can in relation to the topics that we find interesting. So that being said, thanks again for listening. Errol, any closing notes?
Nope. I'm gonna try to maybe we come back to we always say we come back, and it's very likely just to more spooky stuff. Come back to
Yeah,
Spooky
yeah.
Town.
It's a lot of fun to talk about, and there's a ton of great films to break down in this genre. So we'll definitely be circling back to it across time. So
What I'll leave everyone with, if I can find these notes in 2 seconds, is my list of stuff that I wanted to watch, the stuff that I missed out on. Maybe you can get something from this too. It is I wanted to watch The Brood, Kawadan,
that's on my list too. Yeah.
The Fly, Raw. I need to watch Blair Witch and Hereditary. Inside, Eyes Without a Face, Don't Look Now, Girl with All the Gifts, House, Repulsion, Bone Tomahawk, Prevenge, Misery, Don't Breathe, Suspiria, Invasion of the Body Snatchers, La Llorona, Rosemary's Baby, The Night of the Hunter, Nosferatu, The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, Us, Vampire, Midsummer, and The Wicker Man.
Love that list. By the way, Midsummer and Wicker Man got a lot of intersecting themes. Night of the Hunter, you mentioned, I've seen that. That's a Robert Mitchum from the 50s. Fucking excellent. Excellent film. I considered that adding that to my list, but I thought it was a little too hipster, and I've only seen it like 1.5 times, but I love it.
We'll hit a hipster list.
Oh, quick hipster list? Sure.
No. I'm saying like we can do a top 10 hipster list
Oh,
sometime.
we could do that. Yeah, we could circle back. I got a bunch of those. I mean, we could do that all day long. I've got like, it's about like what I consider to be great because I have to include like the cultural impact. So like and nostalgia and all that. So that stuff's included in my list. But yeah, we could do an alternative list. Maybe we'll pump that out before our next preview show or something. But in the meantime, thank you guys again for listening. We really appreciate the support for the Peripheral Views podcast. More content coming at you next Monday. Killers of the Flower Moon special preview. So hang in there. Keep an eye on our social media platforms, and anywhere else you guys are tapped into our content. So that stuff's coming. We look forward to being back on the Peripheral View podcast. So we'll catch you in the next round. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Take care.